Hello. Oh,
Good morning. I'm almost on.
hi. 25, but you're almost what?
I'm almost on. I'm almost there.
Yeah, it looks to me like you're on. Okay. I just took off some glasses and tore at my hair.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
You know when it
Yeah.
ow, that hurt. Anyway.
How are you?
Cold. Good. Overwhelmed with so much to do at the end of school and so many classes the last 2 weeks that I've been
with no breaks. I mean,
literally yesterday.
There was went from one right to the other.
From one to the other, not even a minute, not even run to the restroom kind of break. So that was crazy. But hey, it's over. Hi, Susan. Hi, Monica.
Scheduling should know.
What?
I said the scheduling should know and give you a break.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird thing. Hi, Saul. Hi, Fabio. It was in a way, it was a favor to me because I have a couple of I teach at Credit too, and one of my big 1-4 units canceled, which means there's a lot of time to fill. And so Emma said, well, we scheduled these. You can teach them. They didn't have a teacher for them, and I haven't. And I said, okay. So they were where they were already, kind of, and they had to, and I'm like, okay, yes or no. So I said, yeah. And they just got added to everything else I was teaching just to make up a little bit. So that's why it wasn't really their fault.
Oh.
They weren't originally scheduled to me. They were just tacked on, and that's how it felt. Tacked on.
Yeah.
Anyway, give me a second here. Let me share my screen. How's it going, everyone? It's the last day.
I can't believe it.
Actually, hold on. I can't share my screen yet. Give me a second here. I'm looking for the Padlet code. Give me a second. To send you. I have Padlet open. I guess I could take it from there. I usually copy it from a place that I have. Links. There we go. I had everything open and ready, but I didn't have the Padlet. I have, interestingly enough, I have a survey that I asked you guys to fill at the beginning, but I used to have an exit survey too. And I noticed that I haven't had it lately with the Zoom classes. And I learned so much from my exit surveys, like how did it go? But, oh well, don't have it right now. I'm looking, where's my oh, that's for my browser. I'm sorry, I'm trying to share, but I couldn't find a screen to share. There we go. There's a screen that was hiding from me under and I couldn't share it. Okay, there we go. Okay. And by the way, in the background, go ahead and open InDesign and Photoshop. While we get going, InDesign and Photoshop. InDesign is the one that takes forever to open. Oh, well, and Bridge, by the way. Here's Christina, here's everyone else. And now let's go to this page. All right. So, hi, Norma. Hi, Christina. Oh, they can't hear me yet. Oh, Christina can hear me. Hi, Christina. Hi, Linda. And hey, Norma. So, guys, go to the chat and give us a little hey-ho. And there we go. If the three of you just connected when I was saying this, so I'll say it again. Go ahead and get digital design to get InDesign open and Photoshop, okay, and Bridge. Get those things opened up as I am working on these things. Okay, so today I was hoping to do today's class based on the projects that you guys completed the last class, but at least as far as Padlet, I don't know if you maybe did do them, but as far as Padlet's concerned, it looks like there's only a couple of you, like Moni, Christina, Monica, Cheyenne, who is in Serbia having an amazing time, so she doesn't count right now, seem to have completed, not completed even, created a project with the parts and pieces. If you, so that at least that's what's posted. If you did create something and you didn't post it, please do so. I just put the link, and people who just joined wouldn't have it. So let me copy the link again for Padlet. But that's okay, because I have a project in the handouts that we can all open to do this with. Today, I want to talk a lot about what happens when you're done with all this design. I've been teaching you how to put in things, bring in things, take out things. One of the good news is that the people who took my classes from the last 2 weeks, the newsletter and the magazine, who was there? Was it just Moni? I think maybe a bit, so Norma. And Saul was in and out. I was able to delve really much deeper into InDesign, which we don't have a specific InDesign class. That's why I spend more in InDesign in this class and in others. But if they come around again and you want to know about InDesign more, plus I'm going to change how I teach one of them. So that would be more fun. I like much more how I taught the second one. Anyway, the reason is that when you're done, let's assume that, you know, you've put together a whole piece. What do you then do to get it, whatever it needs to be, have it be printed, to have it be on a screen of some kind, to format and reformat? How do you send a job to file if it's just going to go to, you know, a little digital printer is going to do, you know, 50 postcards, or if you're going to go to a offset printer who's going to do 5,000? What's the difference? And also I want to go into, you know, file formats, because we didn't formally talk much about file formats. And then hopefully we have some time to do some work inside of Photoshop, which is the one that I neglected the most. Not the basics of Photoshop, because the thing about in this class is, since I do basics of other classes, most people know some basics of Photoshop, not everyone, when we start this class. So some specific things about Photoshop that are extra that maybe you might not know in the Photoshop classes that might have to do more with design. So that's the goal for today. We'll see what we get to, but I'm going to try to move us through all that kind of stuff. So comments, I kind of made a few written comments on some of the things that you guys posted. I'm trying to, let me see. Question, how do you drag and drop, copy and paste from a page in InDesign doc to another where the formatting stays exactly the same? I was having issues yesterday. So from InDesign to InDesign?
Yeah, from InDesign to InDesign. Like I need to copy a page from a previous year's booster book or schedule guide to our booster book, and because it's like an ad type thing, and I was having issues.
So
okay. Yeah.
So you were trying to copy the contents or the actual page?
The contents of the page, so that I can actually like adjust them if I need to.
So here's and actually, if you have an example to show me, that would be better, because I have to, off the top of my head, see if I can do that, because off the top of my head you can easily just copy. So I would say, oh, you can just do it. But clearly, if you couldn't, I'm not going to say you should. You should be able to, but that doesn't mean that you can, especially if there's changes in maybe version of InDesign that it was done in. Like if it's really old, there might be, or the other way around, if it's really new and you're trying to go to old. But I don't think you would, you know, it's stuff that you're in the same, you said it's from work that was done before, so you're probably in the same system, because that can happen if you have something sending you from another system. But one of the things that I showed the last couple of classes when I was doing the digital newsletter and magazine is paragraph styles and object styles that are embedded within the document. And I'm wondering, when you copy and paste it into the new one, if what's happening is you leave behind those styles and suddenly things get unformatted. So that could be happening. Could you maybe open them up in the background, and then when we have a minute, we can like maybe attempt it with me watching?
Yeah.
Plan B, the old one, right? The one that you're copying from, do a save as, right? To not affect the original, so that the original stays there in the archives. And the new one, delete all the pages that you don't want, get rid of everything that you don't want, leave only the page you're trying to copy. And then from there, maybe try to reformat it there first. Like if it used to be a 5x7, make it into a 4x6 or whatever because there's a reflow, repage kind of design thing. And once it's resized or reflet in there, then maybe you can copy and paste it better. You know what I'm trying to say? So those are just 3 ideas that come off the top of my head.
Yeah. Hold on.
I'm gonna go ahead and have them in the background. I'm gonna start with today's class and then remind me, just go ahead in the background and try 1 or 2 of these things and then say, this didn't work. And then we can open it up if we need to, okay? Saul? You have your hand up, Saul?
Yeah, I have, regardless of what you guys talking about, Christina issue, I will do it again on InDesign.
Yeah, you mean redo it? Yeah, sometimes it's easier, but if it's very complex, you said it's something about tables. I'm not sure. There's some content that if you can copy it, much better, right? So maybe there's a need to export it or something like when she shows it to me, we'll see. Some things are very intricate, table of contents, things like that wouldn't work because they need to be linked, anchored to the rest of the document. Tell me again what it was. What was you mentioned something and I glossed over it, Christina. You said it was like a table?
Oh, so it's like almost like an ad insert from our bus schedule guide to, I'm trying to move it into our new booster book,
Okay.
Our school routes.
All right, because it's a schedule guide. It could be that it's got some formatting, kind of like the table of contents that refers to things in that other, like if it's a book, do you have links that refer like they're anchored to other pages? Do you have that kind of thing going on? Because that maybe breaks up when you copy it to a document that doesn't have it. Go ahead and I'm throwing out ideas. You think them through. I'm going to start with today's. And then if you try a few of the things we've said, let's go ahead and at some point I'll say, okay, share your screen and then I'll see if I can take a look at it. Okay.
Okay. I signed in on my work computer too, so I can actually.
Okay.
Screen.
Great. Great. Hi, Isabel. Okay. So what we're doing is we're opening up in the background. Isabel, get your InDesign and your Photoshop and Bridge opened up today. All right. And I was just showing again, so if anyone else has another product that they created, okay, I'm seeing basically only 3 of you guys here put in a product. And again, it doesn't need to be finished or completed. It's fine if you're just working on it. But I want to see what you came up with last week. What I said was a bit more like, hey, you're free to apply the things we've learned onto creating something. So it doesn't need to be finished. If you started making a business card, it's not finished, still put it up there. If you started making, put it up there. Don't leave it incomplete. So given that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what was created or not created, but there's a couple of questions that I think Moni asked, or Monica. I wonder if you two had asked something here. Anyway,
was in the it was in the Illustrator class. It was
okay.
The issue of
all right.
the
So yeah, so
logo.
It wasn't a question then. It was more me wanting to say something.
Yeah.
I said, okay, remind me to talk about white space. So again, I'm not necessarily teaching design in this class, believe it or not, in the digital design techniques. The mandate is to teach you the applications, but I do want to give you some design pointers. I do my best to do that. And I wanted to open this brochure that Moni was making here. Has so she's got the, let's say, front cover, one side over here, right? And this would be the front cover, right? This is the address and the information, and then this is the back cover, right? And then I wish I could show 2 at a time, but I can't. And then this is the inside, like you open it up and it's the inside. So one of the comments, just the simple comment that I made when I first saw it to me, when I first opened it up to me, first of all, great application of everything we've been learning, resizing photos, formatting. So basically, yay, it's awesome. Let me just say that first, right? Because I don't want you to hear the criticism. But I'm going to jump into the only thing that I mentioned that you might need to work on, which is it's very busy and you might want to leave some white space. You might leave some space for breathing. Look, don't try to put the entire shebang into a brochure. And mainly is, what's the goal of the brochure? So again, something that I had less time to talk about in here, but when you make a design, when you make anything, any project, before you make it, have an idea of what's the point? What are you trying to say? And then find the way to say it. Ideally, I'm going to say it in the least amount of words, but simple is better, like clean and simple is better, but you want the information to go through. So I'm not saying you don't have to, but I'm not sure that every one of these photos is necessary. And if this is a process of how we do things, maybe the brochure isn't the way. Maybe it's more like a pamphlet where you go like, steps 1 to 10, if that's what you're trying to say. And yes, maybe it's important that you roast your own coffee. Okay, so then you show that or where it comes from. But maybe, however nice the photo is, do you need to show the people smelling? Like start prioritizing to see what it is you're trying to say. So if you're trying to talk about the process, maybe these 4 photos. If instead you're trying to talk about how customers appreciate or the wonderful atmosphere in your cafe, then maybe the other photos. You're trying to see a bit, pick and choose, don't put everything in there. Why? Not so much because the information is too much, but because it's nice to have some space for nothing. Your eyes rest and your eyes read when there's actually, that's we call it white space, a balanced page. Really, you might think it looks like there's a lot of wasted space, but it's not wasted. It's just space to breathe and for your eyes to rest and take in what's actually there. When there's too much, people just go and look the other way. I love reading. A lot of people don't like to read. And indirectly, this one, because you have that, although in a booklet you would never, in a reality brochure, you wouldn't see that page. This would be independent from independent. But just looking at this, it seems less busy. Why? Because there's some space in there. So this kind of text maybe would be something that in a brochure, just see how the margins are so to the end. Like if the margins were just smaller, you'd have to take out maybe 1 paragraph or half a paragraph, but there'd be more space, a little bit more line spacing, kind of like that in between. It's not a book, it's not a guide, right? So then it's something that's attractive. So bring, one of the things we talked about in the last few classes, for better or for worse, Chat GPT, we were playing, I showed people a few things that I did with it, but one of the things someone did is put in what they wrote. And it would be a good idea to say, for example, simplify this, or give me this in 100 words or something like that, and see what they come up with. Not for them to do it, but to see what it could be. And then you go, okay, but they picked and chose something you didn't want, but then go and pick and choose yourself what you want and get an idea how to write the same thing from simpler. Yeah, Christina, of course. Christina says she has a marketing idea. Or
So with the brochure, like, because I've had to do a lot of like brochure books, type stuff. One of the things, like, especially when I worked at an agency and clients give you a ton of text.
Oh yeah.
You have to like try and
they want this, and you guys really.
So one of the things that helps, like if you do have to put a lot of text, if it's necessary, is to put things to break up the text, whether it's like call
text
out,
there, box, text there.
Like if you put like a colored shape like behind the text to make the text stand out, or if you put call outs to call out the important things, so at least they're getting those important snippets from there. Or
like if this were a call out from what's in here and it were here, then people would read that, and then if it's interesting they might read the rest, right? Like that's what a pull quote is in a magazine. You're saying this is important, and they go, oh, that's cool, let me read the article, right? Go ahead.
Also with like the title, like, because for me, with like titles and with text, when there's nothing behind it to, like, people like things that are like compartmentalized. So when it's like
this.
Exactly, like the
cover.
Like the cover, that's easier to focus on, because you can focus on one thing at a time. But when people see a big block of text with nothing to break it up, it's just, it's overwhelming most of the time.
I can't compare 2 at a time here, but just the fact that you have a colored background here, at least it joins them in a way, you know what I mean? It creates something, but then here you break that kind of consistency with that little insert, and that bugs me. So choose one or the other, right? Because in the end, they're showing the same thing. So one, and then ideally maybe keep the same format going, because this does look,
Yeah.
when you open it up, you see these at the same time. This you do. So remember that you were in the class where I talked about columns and rows, right? So
Yeah.
maybe have, even if you have as many photos, but if they're all on a similar, the ones that are going to be seen together on a similar set of guides and columns you have basically by the trifold, but if you have them on the same rows, then it would be easier on my eyes to check this one and that 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 one, even if you put 6 of them, not the 2, but even if you put 6 of them, it's easier if you can do that. Now, what's happening though with that, let me just throw something out. Great pointers, Christina, thank you. And if you have something more to say, give me a minute.
Okay.
One thing you want to do then is, well, but this photo is square and this one's long and this one's whatever they are. And that's what I'm going to, okay. But that's when you have to choose and pick and choose and make them work. Like take the one that's the most important photo, which is maybe say this is the most important photo and that's the format it has to be. Then find a way to crop this one in a way that it fits into that format. And what's the real important part of this one? Or what's the important, and find a way to get some, maybe they're all square, maybe they're all whatever. And it just gives a uniformity, and the captions are always in the same place. And I'm not happy with the captions going from one color to the other.
Yeah.
You want to keep certain uniformity there so that things are, and I'm sorry, please, I'm not bashing her. I love that she tried something, because if she doesn't try something, how does she learn next time she does it for real? She wouldn't have had this experience, right? So when I say things like here, I'm just trying to make you think for the next one. And come on, you had not done anything in your life like this, and look what you came up with. I'm in awe. I'm really happy. And now it's like, okay, next level. What would make this look better? Okay.
Well, the big thing is that my story of my company changed so many times,
Mhm.
and that's why there's so much information in there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
'cause
well,
for
there
some-
you go. There
Yeah.
you go. I'm sorry. Perfect what you said.
Yeah.
You're trying to tell the story of your company and all of its changes in one simple trifold. And
Yeah.
I don't even know the story, but I'm going to tell you, choose one story you're trying to tell per product.
Right.
And in this
No, I
product, you're
kept changing what I thought it should
Yeah,
be. And that,
yeah.
exactly, that's
Mhm.
that's a big part of the problem.
And you were in my classes. I spoke a lot to this, the last few classes where I spent the whole time talking about really focusing on what you're trying to say with each piece and just telling one thing. And yeah, if you're trying to put, and it's interesting because if it's your company, I didn't know, then yeah, you're like that client that Christina mentioned. Clients want you to put everything in there, but you're your designer. So your client and your designer, you got to back off and say, okay, I'm going to tell this kind of thing in this product. I'm going to tell this kind of thing in this product. I'm going to put a little QR code to, if you want to hear the whole story, go to my website where, hey, you can choose to read 10 pages if you want, right? Like, find what's the goal of this one. Get more people to come in, people to, I don't know, I didn't read it well to see if it's a, but look at what happened. I haven't read the details. And me saying, I'm not sure if this is a coffee house or if it's a type of coffee that you roast or if it's a monthly membership. I have not read it. That said, had I read it, I would have known. But the fact that just looking at it, I don't know what this is.
Right.
Right? Come from
Because I
in-house
said all-
roasting coffee.
Yeah. I mean, it's all
yeah.
made up, right? It's all made up.
Yeah. But
that's what it is. Yeah.
But-
it started off as a roasting company. Then I'm like,
Mhm.
well, it should be
Mhm.
a cafe too.
Mhm.
Well, then it should also blah, blah. That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
But you know what? I love that you did this. I love that you tried, because next time you try for another real or not process, you'll go, okay, my brain's going really a bit too wild on this. How do I rein my brain in? What do I really want to put in here? Okay. So great job though on the part of applying what you've learned from us, project wise, art wise, and things like that. Awesome. And then Monica made a beautiful brochure. She had it a little bit easier because she only had to work with the art materials that I had given for this project, right? So in the sense, it was already curated, but there you go. We have a lot of information here, right? And so this is this is the inside, right? No, because you put the same photo twice. Yeah, so this is the ins. Let me just go with outside first. So here's the outside. So here you have the cover, the mailing portion, and then the back. And you know, there's no even words in here, but it's effective because I'm like, ooh, there's like, you know, a feel, a format. Granted, I really want to commend you. You invented all your material, and you know, not to take away from Monica, but this is the material she had, right? But look at it. There's a unity in coloring. This is a color photo, and this is a sepia tone photo, but it's the same tonality, so it kind of blends. Then she made this logo and she worked it into the same coloring as the photos. You did have a question whether it should be up here or not, and I kind of agree, probably not, unless you have it like a little insert small or something. But I don't know, sitting here in the middle, it's busy. It doesn't
Yeah.
add. You have the beans here. It doesn't add. You do want to have a logo in the front. If you do, then maybe find a way to bring it into
Right.
like a top right corner, something like that is a pretty typical place for top left corner. If it's going to be a little one, otherwise you're fine. You have it big in there. Maybe you can have it inside again. Or maybe find a way where logo is top and bottom, like you have it here, art and name. Maybe you put it in here and you write the word coffee house on top, right? And here's the full logo. But yeah, this logo kind of floating. And in fact, the fact that it is a color that blends maybe makes it
Right.
not stand out. So if it were smaller and maybe white or whatever cream color this is, it might help it be a piece that doesn't compete if you want with this portion, right? Anyway, again, I'm gonna talk to what I should be commending you on here, which has to do with all of the location, everything's gone to bleed, the guides, everything's followed, all the text is readable, you know, wonderful. The others are more ideas. And then the inside. I don't know if this is a pull quote or not. No, I'm looking, it's not pull quote. That's the thing, is something you wrote in there. I have a little bit of a concern with this, and that it's a bit too many words for the space you gave it. It's a little bit too many. So maybe either a smaller quote or give it a little bit more space, or give it a simpler font, because this font, and it's fine, maybe this whole quote, but on a simpler font where you get to have a little bit more space around it. This isn't really, this is a great design font for like your logo and that kind of thing. It's awesome, but it's not an easy to read font. For when you have this much text, right? Then you need to switch to an easier font to read, more legible. So it's really not about the quote or the size of the quote. It's that in this font, it becomes crowded. Change font, you can leave the same quote. Maybe there's another font that's the same idea, but not an outline, right? And so it gives you the same feeling, like the reverse of it, where it's the inside, and it's still a bit like a bit of a handwritten thing, but it isn't an outline font. So that's my concern with that, that for what it is and how it's presented, it's, again, like I'd like to have this much white space inside of the quote all around, right? So then if you make this font smaller, it's unreadable. So change the font, right? And then again here, like before, this is one thing you did here is there's like italics, for example, and straight, and that kind of helps a little bit define in a tiny way what Christina was saying, just making, you know, it's one same thing, divided, you know, set in a color. So it's clear to me, this is what I have to read. So it's very clear. I would leave a bit more margin space everywhere, a bit more white space, which, by the way, since you already do with the green, you don't want to waste much more space, right? But just a tad more on each side to give it a bit more lightness. But I love, you know, the insert of the logo here, really nice, really good. And yeah, you didn't have that many photos because it didn't, you know, so you repeated the photo. That's fine. That's just because of lack of materials, but really nice. Repeating colors, repeating, you know, on the base, on the inside, on the, very comfortable for the eye to rest on and see. Nice. All right. Christina, this one we had talked about last week, and then the rest is the same. So there you go. You guys, if you have something to put in here to add, please do so, or work on it and put it in here. I don't have to, you know, be by this weekend if you can. Okay. And got a lot to do today, so I'm gonna move on. Thank you guys. Don't forget to, whatever you do, keep posting, keep adding to the post. All right. What else did I want to show you? Oh, I wanted to show you something in here really quickly. I don't need two of these, do I? Which was, and thank you, Fabio, for posting the stuff, the catch up stuff on the tracing. I wanted to go one of these, just really quickly, what I'll be teaching this summer, because this is our last class, by the way. If you guys are Mac people, a lot of how to work on the Macs and how to work on photos. This is photos and movies, how to edit photos and how to edit movies. But on the Photos app that you have on phones, on your Mac itself, on your computer, on your iPads, whatever, how to do organizing and editing and compiling together of videos and editing videos and stuff like that. So that is all like photos and videos. And don't read the description. The description is from before it's like from 10 years ago, and we don't even have this program doesn't even exist anymore. We don't talk about that one doesn't exist. So I'm telling you what it is. Living the iLife is basically photos and videos on Mac and Apple devices. Okay, and then I'm teaching digital design techniques, this one again, and Photoshop. Okay, so if there's anything you want to go in deeper, is this one. I thought I was going to have Illustrator. It might. If so, I'm going to send an email to everyone. I'm hoping they're putting Illustrator in there again, because people here who did this one might need the Illustrator class. Or just so you know, every time someone takes a class again, I change my projects so that if you learn one thing or another, I keep varying what I teach so that you can get different kinds of information or tidbits from different things. Premiere class, you know what? I want to teach Premiere. Christina's is asking if I teach Premiere. I want to teach it. It's not there as a class yet. We need to create a certificate for it. And there wasn't, the film program and the credit wasn't happy with us. So we're trying to figure out a way to teach Premiere in a way that doesn't clash with what they teach in the credit program, and then we'll get it, but it's not there yet. Okay. Oh, you hate Premiere because you use Final Cut Pro. Actually, yeah, no, I love Premiere, but then again, I've always focused on Premiere because I'm all things Adobe, right? Anyway, so yeah, cool. No, not yet. No, can't teach it yet, but I'd love to. Okay, let's go over to Bridge. And I've got my notes here. Oh, I don't have, let me reshare because I don't have Photoshop share. So let me change my share again to add this one. And there you go. All right, now I've got the right things shared, and let me go to Bridge. All right. So one of the things that I have here, again, in a way, I was hoping that everyone would have their own project in InDesign created that we could work from there, but we're going to work from a file that I have because it actually gives us a little bit more of a learning opportunity for some things that are missing. And there's some folders there, and if you scroll down a little bit to the S, there's the Star King newsletter. So let's go ahead and double click on that. And in here, I have a newsletter, and I've noticed that one says begin and one says final. So let's not work on the final. Don't work on the final or this one either yet. But notice that what I have is a folder with links. We're going to talk later about how to we're going to be talking today about how to package this information to complete it, to send it to a printer or stuff. But if you double click on the links in here, there's a ton of photos, and all of these, and two pieces of text, or two items of text. I don't know how to call it, two text files. First of all, notice that the text files, do you recognize this format? RTF, rich text format. There's also, you could maybe see TXT. There's a couple different formats. That is where text comes in without formatting. So no, it doesn't show it when you open it. If you were to open this file, it'll open up in the most basic text editor of the Mac or of a PC. It doesn't even kick open like Word or anything like that. Many times code for websites is written in these kind of text editors because there's no formatting. That's the ideal way to have any text that you bring into any of these projects. 99% of the time, you will never type stuff in unless it's headlines or things. When it's text, you're going to be given by the client, by your boss, by yourself. You will have written it somewhere else. And most of the people use Word and something like that. But then if they start formatting and making things bold, making things, bulleted or whatever, by the time you try to import it into InDesign, it'll give you the choice to import it with or without the formatting. And unless the person who did the formatting is really good at designs and styles and that kind of thing, it's better to just have none of the old formatting and start from zero and reformat that stuff in InDesign. Don't inherit stuff that's a mess. Different conversation, but you know how Christina said how it was hard to move things in from one program to the other. And I inferred that maybe it has to do with the rules and the design, the style set up in one document that might not be in the other. I'm not sure if that's it, but that could be a thing. That's kind of what would happen with Word. If you have a highly formatted Word document and you try to bring it in, it comes with all that styling, then you're competing, your styling, trying to work with their styling, and then you get messes, like you can't understand what's happening because things don't respond well. So ideally, if you ever get text from someone, either save it as and convert it into a simple, as I said, RTF, TXT kind of format, which then basically erases the formatting, or when you import it, it gives you the choice of stripping the formatting off or not. And as I said, 99% of the times you do want to strip it. And at most, you'll open the file in whatever formatted, Word doc that they open, look at it, and then you'll know, but because of their formatting, what they think is a headline and what they think. Sometimes you can't tell when it's all just text. Was this a subheading or was a title, right? So yeah, if they did format it, go and compare, and then you'll know which one should be your heading, which should be your subhead, which one should be your masthead or whatever. But try to clean it up. And so this is just basic text without. So anyway, that's just what I had to say about text. And then there's a whole bunch of photos. Here, I'm going to click on one of these photos and we're going to look at the metadata. And I don't know how much I did work on Bridge with you guys. Did I work? Or we just basically open files from here only, right? Have I talked about metadata in Bridge yet? In this class, people who've only taken this one.
Yes,
Is this, I have, okay. So good. So then you know that when you select something, you can read about it in here, as the metadata, the information about that photo. And if you look at these photos, well, that's interesting. Why is this not? Oh, I just had it in a different format. I was like, why isn't it coming in? So when you look at these photos that I have in here, you'll notice that they are, quite a lot of pixels in them, some more than others. So if I'm just looking at the pixels here, you'll notice that there's no resolution information. See over here, there's no resolution information on these. Oh, gone. That somehow the metadata got stripped from this. And ideally, you do know what everything is. But in this case, however these photos were transferred, this is the typical where, and by the way, what this is a newsletter for a preschool, right? And in fact, that kid there is my son when he was in preschool, and he is now 16 years old. So this is an old newsletter. But at that point, different parents threw a bunch of photos into some kind of program of photos they'd taken. And then from there, we said, oh, sure, just throw in them and we'll take some for our newsletter. By the time they got to us, they were stripped anyway. So sometimes what you get is not the perfect information. You get what you get. And so in this case, none of these photos have that kind of, oh, look, there's one here that does, and it has some information. Although remember but it basically, most of the things that come straight out of the camera are going to say that there's 72 PPI, which is not the way you want to print a photo in. But thus the information you get in inches is wrong because it tells you it can be 23 by 31, which in reality, it's not true. So A, you can change that in Photoshop, and B, you have to deal with it in InDesign. In a brochure of this magnitude, ideally, a lot of these would have been dealt first in Photoshop. But in this case, they're not. And we're not, later we might come in here and to Photoshop, but we have some time to see how to resize them correctly in Photoshop. So what we have right now, and when we open this InDesign file, we're going to bring in these photos, and maybe we only want a photo like, this size, but when we bring this one in, it's going to show you maybe one of his eyeballs because the rest is so humongous, in part because they're formatted at 72 PPI, and thus they are showing up, as a 23-inch file when you really wanted a little thumbnail. So if these had been worked in Photoshop, set at the correct size and at the correct place, you would be able to just pop them in. We're instead going to have to handle them within InDesign. So the negative of that is that we're going to have huge files linked to our InDesign in comparison to what we really need, because we're really going to need tiny photos of these kids. And again, if you're going to just print a few, that's fine. Yeah. Oh, I was looking at what Christina was saying. Yeah, the resolution isn't showing, but that's what I'm saying. It's not, it's some photos that have been stripped of their metadata like these have, so you don't have that information there. And that can happen a lot of the times. This isn't the case now, but a lot of the times when people text you a photo, when it comes to you, the information, the metadata is all messed up. Text seems to mess up, that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's head back over here. All the photos are in one folder. That's good. They're separate from the InDesign. At least that's one step ahead. Well, in all the photos and the inserts and all the material. Let's go ahead and first, let's open the one that says final, because we're going to talk a little bit about what to do with fonts and stuff like that. And then we'll go open this first one, and then we're going to just work on what it's like to work with something that's already kind of templated. And there's just a few things to fill in. But let's do this one first. Now, this one, I told you, was created eons ago, right? Originally. Let me see, date created 2012, right? So this is created in a format of InDesign far different from the one that we have now. I see a hand up there, so Linda?
Yeah, I don't have those files. I'm on VDI still. And were they
Oh.
added later?
Does anyone else not have them? Do you all have them or not? Okay, if you all have them,
It's just me as an outlier. I can,
no, I
I
can
can
go
find-
and throw them in there, but people downloaded them from there, so that's interesting. But you know what? That's fine. I'll throw them up. And download class files. There it is. There's the folder, Star King newsletter.
okay, I'll catch up. I'll
no,
download it and upload
but-
it again.
Yeah, but you don't know how to download them. If you're on VDI, you can't download them. You should have them. Want to share your screen, because in the Google Drive it should be there because they're here. I mean, this is what you're opening on Google Drive. So can you share your screen for a second? Let me see if I can help you find it.
You know what? I
No.
can't because I'm on, it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
confusing, but I'll
Um,
catch up. It's all right.
In
I'll
in
figure it
the
out.
file, if you open up the files from Google Drive, you should see a search for a folder. I don't have, what will Google Drive look like? I don't have the Google Drive available. Well, I do actually if I share my screen here, but you should see it. But the Google Drive I have, I'll show you through a Mac, so it won't look the same. Otherwise, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, but we're gonna spend some time in this, so try to get
I
there, because
will.
we're gonna spend some time in it today. All right, thank you.
Just a quick
If the
question,
if the files
too.
weren't there, I would send them to you, but since they're there, I don't know what else to do. Yeah. Are you in the, wait, one more thing. Are you in the right folder? Hold on, I have a thought right now for Christina. She was in another of my digital design technique classes, and maybe you're still in the old set of files, because you're sharing, I'm sharing it to this guy because I don't put the same files all the time. And then last time I hadn't put the digital design techniques files. So go and make sure that you don't have two different folders that you're connected to, and that you have the same, the same files. Because yeah, I change files every time we teach. So maybe you're in an old set of files. I don't know. Okay, someone else was saying something.
Yeah, I just had a question. When I open it, it just says that I don't have any of the fonts. So do I-
Exactly. Yeah. So wait, that's part of the whole learning. That's part of the whole teaching, and why I saying, good point. There you go. That's exactly what we're going to. I was showing, this is an old format. Okay. And who knows when it, there's so much unknown when you have an old file. And in a way, that's partly why I bring it up and keep sharing it too, instead of saving a new one. Because, when you save as, you could save it as a new format. But we're going to have some issues when we open this for two reasons. A, because of the, InDesign being old. B, because who knows who created these, what they were made in, Was it a Mac? Was it a PC in 2012? Did it matter more than it does now in 2023? Yes, format, fonts and stuff in 2012 and now it was a whole different deal. And thus, now let's open it. Yep, the final one, if you already tried. Hopefully you haven't said yes or no to any of the messages because that's the point I'm trying to teach. If you did, cancel out, okay? And open it again because I want you to see these messages. This is the learning here, all right? So here I'm trying to open something and see what I mean about all the photos are going to be tiny little photos and that's what it's going to look like. But before I even go to these messages, look what's happening. It's not that there's pink background to the text that I brought in here or that exists here in this document. It's just that when it's showing like that with like pink around the text over everywhere, it's basically telling you, I don't have that font. So there's quite a few places that I don't have that font. On the other hand, some of them are showing up okay. And since my computer is mine and yours is yours, I don't know if maybe all of the font is showing up pink behind you, or if yours here is not pink, but this is pink. What I'm saying is it's whatever it is that you have on your own computer that isn't showing up. And I seem to have this format of text in my computer and not this one. And then there's 2 pages. So who even knows what's on the other side? So it might be, what I'm trying to say is it might be that you don't have the same missing fonts as me, right? Before we continue with any of this, there's a question there. Yeah, Moni?
Well, I'm just wondering, because when I try to do it and it's opening into, trying to open in InDesign, I don't even see the image. It's just a small, it doesn't have all the information that yours is showing. Mine just has a little block that says, you know.
Go ahead and
the
share
links are missing.
because I don't, go ahead and share with me
Yeah.
because I don't recognize. Sometimes I know what you're talking about, but I don't know
Right,
what you
right.
could be seeing. This is what you should be seeing. So let me see what you're
Yeah.
seeing.
Can you see it?
Oh, okay. So okay. So you have okay. You got this one first and then you'll get this one.
Oh.
Maybe it's possible that I don't get this one because I do have the link. Okay, there's 2 different ones. So this one is talking about the links and you, maybe you all got it already or you get it after this one. I'm not sure in which order it comes in. What you're getting is that the links, which would be all those photographs, okay, that exist in this image, and the text is a link also, like basically everything. This was a template that's empty and everything got linked in, text and photos and background images, anything was linked. So it's saying 0 are missing, but 30 have been modified. And remember when we talked about links, we talked about as soon as you move them to another folder, the computer says, hey, what's up? Where are these photos? And you need to tell them again where they are. Well, in this case, it doesn't say that they're not there, but they've been changed. Now, we know it's not that the photos themselves haven't been adapted or changed. It's just the fact that from where they were created to moving onto the server for you to download and then moving them down into your computer, InDesign's like, oh God, you got to help me here. You have to either don't update, and then you have to update each one by hand, which in this case would be horrible because you don't want to do it 30 times, or click on update. And then if it knows where they are, it'll just go, whoop, boom, there they are. And if it doesn't know where they are, then you'll have to tell it. So go ahead and click on update since we're doing that one first. Go ahead and do that. So it found them. Otherwise, it would have told you, where are they? It found them. And now you're getting the fonts one. Okay. So now I'm going to stop your share and I'm going to continue. So that might have happened to other people too, that you first got the missing links one. And maybe I didn't get it in mine because I have, hold on, I'm sharing the screen again because mine already in my photo, maybe in my folder, maybe it already knew where it was. So I'm going to share my screen again and let me head over to InDesign. So yeah, if you came up with hers, then update modified links would have been fine because none of these photos are actually missing. They're in another folder and the computer's asking you to redirect it. Okay. But then this one has not only this box, but does everyone see this blue one here, down here? The little blue one? Okay. So this blue one, when did this start? Has it been a year ago or 2 years ago now? I don't know. The pandemic and my brain times are a bit fuzzy here. but I believe it happened. If you go to learn more, it'll tell you when, or maybe it is 2023. They started warning us for the last few years. They've been warning us that as of, so maybe it just started in 2023, but they've been warning us forever that they're not going to support type 1 fonts anymore. Remember, this document was created in 2012, and I told you the issue has always been fonts. In the world of design, fonts is an issue. And for eons, since I began designing until a short time ago, type 1 fonts were the fonts to use. Then we moved over to three other types of fonts. Never mind, the whole point is that these are the oldest ones. And after some point, InDesign or Adobe said, okay, enough already. If you have a document with these old fonts, we just won't even show them anymore. So you got to update. And they've been warning us for years. Any documents that are old, begin to work on it. And here it says you have 6 type 1 fonts. Okay. And a year ago as of 2022, fall, when I was teaching this one didn't come up yet. There were still a lot of fonts that needed to be updated because people didn't have them in their computers. But it wasn't that they weren't supported anymore. But now they're not even there. You won't be able to find them. Adobe won't be able to show them. So anyway, I'm going to leave that one there. It's just, I don't know how long they'll show this. Maybe they'll show this for years, because for years people will be opening old files. And it's typical in a business that you go and repurpose stuff that has been there, right? And you might have things there for a while. Okay. And then, people spent eons of years buying fonts. Companies say MTD, maybe they had a font that they've used for 20 years and they didn't change it, and it was a type 1 font. And suddenly companies have been having years to update on this, because it's a certain look that your company has had with that font. And suddenly if it's not going to be supported anymore, you're going to have to completely, change the font that you've been using forever. So anyway, people have been adapting to this for a long time. And now we end up with a document where it doesn't recognize most of the fonts. As I said, in my case, it seems to recognize this one because it's not outlined in pink, but the rest are not. Now, one thing I used to show, a lot of these aren't in use. By the way, I didn't design this. So that newsletter, it was a template someone else made, and I just popped in some stuff. But the original design was designed with a lot of fonts that in the end never got used, that they had little things on the side. And I remember saying, see, this is a font that we shouldn't even bother with and stuff like that. But now it doesn't matter because it won't even let us open it until we substitute them. So beyond this story, many times you get this kind of message just because your computer doesn't have the fonts that someone else designed them in. As long as they are in Adobe fonts, and someone else, say Christina sends me something that, MTD designed. Well, if they purchased a certain font that, they're like, hey, I'm going to subcontract you as a designer, and they say something to me, they need to also send me their font for me to be able to work in that project. Because unless it's, in this case, an Adobe font, I probably don't have it. And if I have it, they should have the license to it. Fonts is a whole thing that you need to own the license to use. And even if they send it to me to work on their project, when I'm done and I send the project and I'm done, if it's a font that they purchased, but I didn't, I technically should delete it from my computer because I don't really own it. Now we're talking copyright things this week with you guys. Some of you guys were in the other classes. I don't own it. I was allowed to use it because they do have and it's a project for MTD. They did pay for the license, so I can use it, but I can't then go ahead and use it on the coffee bean company, for example, right? Because I never paid for the license and the coffee bean company didn't pay for the license. So fonts is something that you need to be careful with that. But in this case, if these exist or replacements for this exist in Adobe fonts, it would be very simple to enable the Adobe font because everyone has rights. Everyone who uses Adobe has rights to hundreds of thousands of photos that exist in the font type library. I doubt, though, because these don't exist anymore, that they'll be able to be enabled. Probably what we're going to need to do is replace them, right? And replace them with something that hopefully looks similar. But then again, we don't even know what it looks like because what it's showing me, I won't be able to tell if the new font looks like that. Yes, Monica, you have a hand up?
Yeah, my message is slightly different. It does not say enable Adobe fonts. It just has the replace fonts option.
Okay, so no one else has this one? Tell me, go ahead, since I don't see, so I'm seeing the 3 faces I see are saying no. I'm assuming then that a lot of you guys don't have the enable Adobe fonts.
Correct.
All right, so then I won't show you that, but the whole point in this case, it would be a moot point. So I'm not even sure then why it's showing it. Maybe one of these isn't, and the
I
type
have
one,
enabled.
you do have enabled?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know why some of you do or some of you don't. I'm thrown by that. I don't know. If you don't have it, let me just show you what would happen if I say enable. I'm going to click on enable, since some of you do have it, and boom, quite a few disappeared. Like, it seems that, not quite a few, one or two got handled. Okay, they just enabled them. And actually, I just got a message on the side of my screen that said, fonts have been enabled, like Adobe let me know. So I don't know which right now, but a few that weren't of the type that doesn't exist anymore seems to have just been turned on in my computer. I don't know, but then it's gone, right? Maybe you guys, oh, here's the
I
answer.
think
Maybe you
it
guys
did it
already,
automatically.
yeah, maybe you guys already had it enabled, or it did it automatically, right? Or maybe you already had those enabled, and who knows. So now I'm left with this one. If I skip, I'm going to have to do it inside again. Now, before I continue with this, look down here, and it's telling me, whoa, 39 errors. We're going to talk about the pre-flight today, but I'm pretty sure that 99% of these errors on this final one are the fonts. And what it's telling me, I don't have a font for here, but why 39 if it's only like 6 fonts that it can't find? Because every instance of that font is an error, right? So for this paragraph, it's not there. For the headline, it's not there. For the title, it's not there. For this title, it's not there, right? So every time it's missing, it's one instance of an error. So it's not, probably not more than that. I don't know. There may be those other errors. I don't remember. I might do different things on examples, and I haven't used this example in a while. So maybe I made other purposeful errors there. But for sure, we know that there's a ton of instances of these fonts. So let's go ahead and say replace fonts. The only place that this is a problem is that, how do you know what the Frutiger Roman has to look like? What do you replace it with? What about Trajan Bold? If you don't know, what is Palatino? If you don't know what these look like, what do you replace them with, right? So let's head over there. Let's hit replace fonts. Let's not skip, because we would have to, if we skip, we'll have to fix it inside anyway, right? This won't print well, so we have to replace the fonts. So let's hit replace fonts and do that now. And here we have find 14 are missing, right? Do y'all have the same number? Do you also have 14 fonts? Okay, so yeah, probably already had things enabled or did it automatically, and that's why mine. Okay, so then it shows you where they're missing also, right? Like the instances of them missing. Now, I'm noticing that there's a message here that it's missing. Okay, so maybe these are the ones that are not missing. I don't know why. Anyway, there's a ton of fonts in this document, which is kind of why I use it as an example. But in the end, I think there's only 3 that are actually used, or 4. And there's some stuff in the sides in the pasteboard where things were brought from other documents that have all these other fonts, and they're not even part of the document. So you got to clean the pasteboards. I'm not sure if which ones are the ones that are being used. So it basically wants to say replace with, it wants to replace with Minion everything. Minion is the basic, beginning font that you have when you open InDesign. It's the default font. So if I click on this one, I don't know what it looks like, right? So what I need to do is say find and show me, what is this one, right? So I don't want to just change them all to Minion Pro. Let's say find first, right? And so it goes and it selects for you, although there's so many missing. Here it is. And there it is. It pointed, and it's the address, Stark King, Santa Barbara, whatever, that thing that's highlighted there. That's the one that's missing. Which, if so, that's ridiculous that this is a font that's only used there. But we might go ahead and say, well, find next. Where else is it? And keep saying find next. And it looks like that when I keep saying find next, that's the only place it's there. So that is an example of, now, and the reason I have this one here as final is because it's full of the photos. But this is not print ready is what I'm trying to say. And that's what I'm trying to teach you today. Because you can't send this to the printer. They wouldn't be able to print it. They don't know where it is. So I'm going to change it. as I can see, it's a basic, font. If I don't know what to do with it and I'm not sure what I want it to look like, go ahead and I can scroll up and make it bigger so I can look at it a bit more. And it looks like it's a pretty basic, say basic, a very simple sans serif, regular-ish kind of font. I might want to change it to a special one. Or one thing that matters to me is if this document has styles, it actually has styles, and where you've said headline be this, body be this, subhead be this, you've defined presets. The heading is going to be this font with this size and this, the title is going to be this font with this. So those are styles that you decided to use. When you replace Frutiger for another one, it'll be temporary unless you also redefine the style. Since most of you haven't heard about styles, I'm going to just ignore that for now. But so for now, it doesn't matter. But when in doubt, because you don't know if what you're going to choose is going to be better, but when in doubt, this is a good one to say yes to if you know what fonts you're replacing it with. Like if you've looked at this, you have a print, you've checked your fonts, you know what you're going to do. I'm going to choose this one for that one. Then redefine styles is a good one. All right, I'm going to kind of guess a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead and change to this one with what's there. I'm not going to look for another one. And I'm going to say change. And the moment I did that change, I can look at it and go, oh, my bad. What's the difference? Can you tell? It's showing the changed one. It disappeared from here. It's not a problem anymore. But before, we used to have a font that was non-serif, which is like this one here, straight without little kind of feet, so to say. And Minion Pro has those little serifed little bits and pieces. So I changed it with a font that really isn't the same look and feel. Not only that, it might be much bigger, much smaller as it's designed. So it might really change the look and feel of my entire document. So, probably you need to first define what kind of fonts you want instead of going with what they're suggesting, because they don't suggest a good replacement. They just suggest their basic one. If I had tried, like if I go over here and had tried to change another one in this mode, I don't get to see what fonts it should change into. I don't get the preview. Showing you this because this is a great tool if you do know what your font that you're changing it looks like. Like you're a designer and you decided, okay, we're going to change this one with, I don't know, Helvetica. We're going to put that one, we're going to put, Arial. But when you don't know, it's kind of a blind choice. See, it's not doing the live preview that we've seen before, where if I hover over this, it changes it to that, or I hover over this, it changes it to that. So yes, if you know what fonts you're going to go to, this is a great tool. If you don't know, then we might as well do it inside where you get a chance to compare and try to get fonts that at least look similar to where they should look. Does that make sense? So if I don't want to do it here, I'm gonna just close out and say don't change, don't change, don't change, and then I'll find the same amount of errors inside. Notice that I now have 38 errors because one has been handled, right? So, but instead, if I go ahead and at this point, you've kind of seen the process. I don't want to have us fix 28 errors or hundreds of errors. We could start saying yes to others. So if there was no more, I'll say done to that one and we'll change them all inside, right? Because I don't want to keep going. Had I changed one by one, selected all of those, it would have kept saying change with Minion Pro. And I'm like, well, I don't know what they need to look like. So I didn't change them yet. And now we're going to change them from the inside. So now that I'm in here, I'm going to do Command or Control 0. So we go back to screen. And now I have the same problem I had before. Over here, it says remind me later. I'm going to set remind me later because that sits there because I didn't clean up the font. So the warning was still there. And that's the one that did get changed. Okay. Now, what I can do is decide, well, this was probably supposed to be this font. I don't know. So let's click on this font and see what this one is. And right now, the way I have my, oh, you guys are not in newsletter mode. This is my last one. Let me change. I think we were in essentials in this class. Was it essentials that we've been using in this class? Okay, I'll switch to essentials. Okay. I meant to put it there. Okay, so where was I? Here, it was the first page over here. So see how different, now you might be able to tell how different the look and feel of this font is from that, and it's mainly because it's a serif font. So say that I just want to go with this font, whichever this one is, because ideally you don't use 2000. When I click on this one, it says, oh, it's Arial. Okay, so if it's Arial regular, 8.5 points, this is probably going to be smaller, and right now it's that one. So let's select it, right? Oh, here Star King already has another font that's missing. Which one does it think it is? It's Trajan. So let's go ahead and grab this whole thing. So this is crazy that this even had 2 different fonts. It's like, really? Why would you need 2 different fonts in here? And let's select that whole thing and then just go up here and say Arial regular, which I believe is the one that this had, Arial regular. And now it's giving me, at least it's that same font. Now, do I want it to be bigger or smaller? In this case, it probably should actually be smaller than the article itself, because this is kind of like the folio, and it doesn't need to be that. Maybe it's our King can say a bit bigger. Maybe I'll bring it here. Oh, it's not even the same size. Look, the fact that it's not giving me a size means that one of these fonts is bigger or smaller. I don't know. There's a combination of font sizes. So let's go ahead and choose maybe 9 points. Let's see, now maybe that's 8 points. Okay, how about we leave it with 8 points? So now we have one has been resolved. Okay. Now, down here, now it says 37 errors. I'm going down, down the list of errors. Okay. Now I'm going to take you to a different place for errors or not errors, but first let's back out a little bit, go to Command 0. And let's look at this whole thing. This is an example, at least when it was designed. If you look at the pages, it's only 2 pages. This was not designed in the front cover, spread, and back cover. Now, why? And I can just tell you why. This was not sent to a printer. Whoever was doing this had a really good printer in their house that did tabloid sized papers, and you know, there's a limited amount of parents, and they just ran, 50 copies through their printer. So this is an example of, this is not set up to go through a professional printer where they're going to tuck in a booklet. This was basically one big tabloid sheet, put through the printer, turn it around, double-sided print the other side. So there's only 2 pages, okay? Which is a perfectly good way to design it too, especially if you know that you're going to, as always, you need to check with the printer first how to set up your document, and check with the printer in this case is, the printer from your home, which can't handle, 1, 2, 3, 4. It just basically prints a sheet. So that's how this one has been designed, and that's how it worked, as 2 big spreads. So it's been artificially, if you want, divided with guides and lines to turn into what it is. Let me hit the W so that you can see what it should be. Now, all of these problems in the working space, if you say, well, let me see what it should be, when you hit the W, it goes, oh, this is what it looks like. It takes that pink out of the way, and it's like, phew, I can finally see what it should or shouldn't be, right? So now you can get an idea of what you need to replace things by. And what I'm noticing is that most of the text is sans serif. Now and then, like by Yolanda Medina Garcia, that one is a serif font. Let me see, when I go W, is it missing? No, that one wasn't missing actually. If I put my mouse in here and I check on the font, I click in here, it tells me it's Baskerville italic. Okay, so that one I guess was fine. I mean, it's in mine, maybe in yours it's missing, but in mine it isn't. It's missing, see these little boxes there when I hit W? That word in there is missing, and that used to be avant-garde. This one is missing, and I'm gonna click on this. Type, this used to be the Palatino. It's interesting, Palatino. I thought Palatino is a serif font. Really, this was Palatino? Palatino is usually not a body copy, and I thought it was serifed, but it's not showing it to me as serifed. Anyway, and so on and so forth. So here you have a feeling for what's it look like. Anyway, so this was the cover. This was the back cover. And when it came out of the printer, people just went through, folded it and ran, you know, cover, back cover, and middle spread. All right. Or interior in this case, because there's no, so interior spread. When we open the one to work with, you'll see that the photos are missing, and we're talking about how to bring them in and stuff like that. But over here, there's an example of threaded text where I think this one says continued from front page. And which one is the article that continues? Yeah, this one, the front page, continued on next page. I guess there's no need to put numbers, maybe I should say continued inside or something like that. So this is one of those where if you were to show threads, view, show text threads, and you click on this one. Did I turn it off? It should be showing me the thread. I mean, I can see over here that it has a little arrow that's in use. Like it's not the plus sign, it shows me a little arrow that way. And then when you get to the bottom of this one, it shows the arrow, but I'm not sure why it's not showing me the test thread. Come on. And then here it comes in, the arrow comes in at the top, like this is continuing from that. But I'm not, I mean, it is threaded. If I go ahead and change one and the other, it'll show, but for some reason it's going wild here. It's not showing me the thread. Anyway, as I keep showing this document every now and then, it might be a point where from 2012 to now, it's just too much and it'll begin really not working, right? But I don't know why. So let me show those text threads. Anyway, the rest are self-contained. Okay, so how do we fix things? How do we fix stuff in here? Like how do we choose fonts in here that we think are better? So one thing we can do is try to change one font at a time. And when we like it, then we change all the others that are written in that. So I'm going to look and decide that I'm going to change this font, because when I do the W, when I do the whole hit the W, I'll see that this is missing, right? If it's missing, it's going to be changed. Okay. So I'm gonna, yeah.
So I think you're still in the preview mode, because my threading worked when I was in the regular.
Oh, I was probably, yeah, there you go. You're right. You're right. There it is. Thank you. I was like, oh, why is it not showing to me? Thanks. Sometimes I can't. I'm showing so much I don't think straight. Before I continue, go find out. Go ahead and find out what font this is and find out like what it's supposed to look like. And then let's, oh, I was going to answer Fabio meanwhile, but Fabio just took his hand down. Yeah, what? What did you want to ask? No question? Oh, you said connection is good. You think it's
sorry,
me? Oh, I see. You're thinking.
I don't have the character.
Yeah, you're breaking up. Am I breaking up to anyone else? It's
No,
Fabio. Yeah,
you're clear.
Fabio, because he said his connection is good. Maybe it's on my end. Fabio, everyone else says that they're hearing me well, and we can't hear you. You're breaking up for me. So, oh, you said, all right, it's me. I'll just write here. Okay, I got it. Well, right there, what's your question? And then when I see your question, you cannot see the character panel. Oh, okay. So go ahead and I'm not sure right now what you are seeing or not. In Essentials, if you are in Essentials, because some of you are in others of my classes and I've changed different views. In Essentials, mine has probably been adapted already during the class. If you are missing something that you need, it looks like I added them, which are here in character. So you can go to Window and look for the type tools and go into type tools and tables and pull up character, for example. Right. And so then when you do that, it'll come up and then you can just grab it from here and tack it in like that. And that will give you the character. But otherwise, once you click in with the type tool and click into the text, then the properties will show it to you. Okay. But if you're not clicked into text, if you're clicked into a photo or something like that, there's no type tools here. If you're clicked into the colored box, but the moment you click onto text, right, then with your mouse, clicked in the type tool into the text and put your cursor in there, then the character tools appear. Okay, so does it, hopefully it works now? Yeah, I'm not selecting the text box. You need to, when you've got the whole text box appearing, especially when it's threaded, you actually don't see them appear. Like a simple text box like that one with the selection, the character panel appears. But the threaded ones, the character panel doesn't appear. Yeah, I don't know, reasons, changes. And this is what I mentioned about paragraph styles and character styles. And if I look, no, you know, there's, watch, paragraph styles. I'm not gonna get deep into paragraph styles today in this class, although I'm gonna explain it a little bit because character styles are crucial. Paragraph styles are crucial for any document that's more than just like one page, right? Because every time we choose to write the article, we're going to want the article to have the same character style. Every time we put in a headline, we want to have the headline have the same character style, and so on and so forth. So we need to create them. And if they're not created, then each time we put in text, we're going to have to select the text, choose Arial, 5 points, 10 leading, 3 tracking, 1 spacing, whatever I choose each time. So what a paragraph style is just a preset that you say, okay, every time I'm going to write a heading, make it be this. You do it one time, and then next time you write a heading, you just, instead of saying the whole shebang again, you just go and click on the style, and it changes that thing into all those presets. Does that make sense? And this, by the way, that I'm saying is across the board. InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, all of that, but Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I mean, the world of computers, pages, Word docs, Google Docs, everything uses styles, okay? So it just to make things consistent and easy to work with. So when I click into this text and I see here paragraph styles, this one has not been styled. It says no style. If I go over here, I do seem to have styles. So let's see what body text might be. I'm going to click on body text. Obviously, it didn't change anything. Let me see, just out of curiosity, because maybe these styles have, and I'm clicking on this font and I'm going to call it an article header. Yeah, looks like these styles are not, they're not activated, or something's not, as I said, maybe this is the kind of thing that after 12 years, they stop. Guess who answers? Okay, so the text selected, it does change. Okay, so the box isn't changing, but with the text selected, it changes. So one that I know works is this one, whatever this one is. And this one, right, because it doesn't have pink behind it, says, when I look at paragraph style, says that this one is sidebar text, right? So what is that sidebar text style? I don't know. Let's look at it, right? So I'm gonna open it up to see, okay, because it's the only one that the font seems to be working. I'm gonna go here to the paragraph style, sidebar text, and see this little pencil? I'm gonna open it up. Is this sharing the paragraph style options? Is it sharing or do I, okay. So the paragraph style opens up, and it basically tells me sidebar text has been set up to be ITC Avant-Garde Gothic, book size 9.5, leading 12 points, drop cap, align left edge, scale descender. See, it's all the choices that have been made for it all in one, right? I'm surprised that it says that it's ITC Avant-Garde Gothic, and I guess that one is one of the ones that is still allowed, but I would have thought the ITCs were the ones that were type 1s, but anyway, so that works. I don't want to go any further into all the other details. I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to say, well, if I like this font, maybe if I like this font, my InDesign crashed. I know it's been funky. My InDesign just totally crashed. Let me open it up again. Meanwhile, I see that, let me stop sharing and let me have Monica's question while I open InDesign again.
Yeah, my question was how to get the threading.
Oh, go to say view, extras, show text threads or some. Because I don't have it in front of me, I know exactly, but it's something like that.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, good. Design opened up again, so let me. That was weird. I'm running so much stuff at the same time as usual that maybe my computer is rather oldie. It's kind of ready to. Should be changing it, but I'm waiting one more year. It's got a lot of RAM and it's powerful, but it is an old version. So, okay, let me share again because now it opened up. Monica, that was your hand, right? So yeah. Share again. Let me only share InDesign. Maybe that helps. I was trying to share everything at the same time and share only InDesign. Maybe that helps. Okay, so back to this. Since this one is working, right? If I think that this is a good idea, right, to make everything else this, it clearly is working. Is it working for you guys too, this one? Okay, so why don't I apply this style to other things? Now, I'm going to go ahead and select the text in here. And by the way, I can tell when I click on it. Oh, I need to go back to essentials. There we go. When I click into this one, whatever it was a 10 points. When I click into this one, it's an 8.5 points, right? So, but the font in this one was working and oh, this is Arial. But when I went to the sidebar, it said that it was avant-garde. If I reset to base, it's under no paragraph style. Okay, I don't know. These styles are kind of messed up, probably from some old stuff. So let's forget about it. Let's just go ahead and say that we're going to change the font for all of this. Let's go ahead and click inside of this, right? It's a threaded text. If I change just the set that's in this box, the other one won't change. So the only way to get all the text from both that are threaded is to click and say select all, which would be Command A, and see how it selected that and that. Command A, or for those of you who don't like shortcuts, I think it's Edit Select All. Yeah, there. Edit Select All. And so it takes whatever's here and whatever's in the back page and the third page. Now, this might not always be what you want. You might want the last page of, page 72 have a different font, but if they're threaded, the problem will be that then the front page will have, if you take something out and you edit it, then what's going to come back from the front and the back will have the other font. But anyway, right now we do want it to have the same thing. So let's go over here and change this one. And let's look over here. I'm at 37 errors right now, right? So let's go and change it to Arial at this point. Let's not get too exciting. So if you don't, if you don't have it there, let's just go ahead and type Arial. Sorry, go ahead and type Arial. And let's go to Arial regular. One thing that might happen is that it might not fit the same way, right? But for now, let's just say okay with that. And now, since it's a chosen font that exists, when I click away, see how it's not pink anymore? I gave it reality and I go down here and it says, oh, only 33 errors. I fixed a bunch of errors by fixing that, okay? All right, so we're not gonna fix every single font in here, but what I wanted to show you is that we changed the font, but now I can't just relax because look what happened. Now I have overset text, whereas before I didn't, now I do, because just changing the font changed how big this is. And if I don't know, let me see how much is missing. Oh, quite a bit is missing as I still, there's as I keep going, it keeps going. There's a lot missing, but up to there. This whole bit from here to here, from here to here, now is not fitting just because I changed font style. That's all, because even though both are 10 points, the style of the font in this case needs more space to be a 10 point. Does that make sense? That was really the point of showing you this one. Don't just think that, ooh, change the font and life is good. You have to go check and make sure what happened to this font, which is why ideally you go ahead of time and try to compare different fonts. And there you go. Let's go ahead and then let's select all again. And let's find out if instead of 10 points, say that we want this font, we don't want to change, look for another font, maybe 9.5 might work. 9.5 is not going to be here. 9.5 we're going to have to write. So let's write 9.5 just to make it a tad smaller and then hit return. Oh, that kind of worked. So, you know, it's a good compromise, so to say. I would probably want to, if this is for real, it's going to be a template that I'm going to keep using, that I'm going to search a little bit more to really find the font that's perfect. But hey, as a quick compromise, that worked. It put it inside the margins. I'm done. I'm ready to go. Let's just move on to something else kind of thing. You know what I mean? All right. So that's one example. We would have to go and do that to everything. Plan B. What would we do? To see where the next, how to fix everything automatically now. Say that we're just going to go boring. We're going to just make everything Arial, which, as I said, you got to research, find fonts that look like the original and stuff like that. But let's say that we're just going to go make everything Arial to just move on. How do we do it now, after the fact, after the original replace fonts existed? Well, we go to the links. So let me reset my essentials. I think my essentials is maybe not the basic one that you had yet. So I think we had already brought up the links with you guys, but since I reset mine, if you don't have the links, I'm going to go bring up the links. I'm going to say links right there. And so here comes the links and the layers, right? So here we go. Here's the links. None of the, in this case, because it's already finished, none of the links are missing. Life is good. I have a couple of instances of the handprint. I think we've seen that the handprint is somewhere over here. There, that's the handprint, but it's one file that's put all over the place. I think it's there also, and in another place, it's in a bunch of places. Now, one thing that came up with Moni that she said she had low quality, let me go ahead and approach one of these photos. And then after that, we're going to show you the pre-flight, which is where you'll fix the rest of the fonts. I'm going to go ahead and go up, 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 select this photo or any photo, doesn't matter, and go up, 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 zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. And in my case, I am seeing the photos in high quality. It looks good, it looks sharp or whatever. But Moni was saying the other day that her photos were not looking good. And so what you you can do it individually or to the whole document. You want to change the display. So I'm going to just click on this one photo here and show you that you could do it. Well, the window isn't showing, and then go to a higher photo because it's, I don't know if you can see it when I do that. There it is, the menu is there. So here you have to, before the menu is popping up underneath, display performance. Right, click on this photo. And I can say fast display or, and it isn't shifting right now. That's interesting. Display performance, typical display. I guess I have to do it to the whole document in this one, or high quality display. I had it in high quality display and that changes how it looks. Let me go ahead and back. Let me go back to, or I had it, which is in use view setting, and where you should change this. I'm going to go to the file preferences. Not file preferences, document preferences. So for Mac people, the preferences are always going to be under InDesign. And now they're not called preferences anymore. If you have Ventura, they're called settings. So people in Ventura, meaning the latest OS on a Mac, when you go up to the name InDesign and it says preferences, now that word is settings. On older Macs is called preferences. And then this is what we want. We want to open this, display performance, right? And here comes the display performance. On a PC, on the other hand, you go to the edit menu, and way at the bottom of the edit menu down here, you'll see the preferences. So those of you who are on a PC, open up your edit menu and the preferences are over there. That's the only other glaring difference between Mac and PC, other than the shortcuts, is where the preferences are set. So I'm going to open it from here again, head over to display performance. And this here, I have it set to adjust to high quality and high quality. If you have fast or typical, I'm gonna go down to fast and fast. I'm also over here, it says Greek type below 7 points. Just to show you what this is, let's go ahead and change this to 12 points. Greek type below 12 points. Just change those there. And oh, I have set these up to like raster images, higher quality. I can just move these to the middle, right? Something like that. So what I'm doing right now, watch when I say okay. Wow, it's not responding. Is my computer not responding? What should be happening right now is a lot of this text should be in boxes. And the quality of the images should be really pixelated. But it's still showing them to me in good quality. Has it changed for you guys? Is everything showing kind of pixelated and photos are slightly fuzzy or not?
I don't know if I did it correctly. Mine is still fuzzy.
I'm
So I
wondering if
think
I need to, maybe I need to close the file and open it up again or something. That's interesting. I'm noticing that mine is even like an untitled, like when I crashed, it opened a different version. It's even open the same version. Okay, so basically it's usually the other way around. Usually what happens is that when it starts, let's use the default settings. Usually you don't have, you don't see things and you need to come in here to turn them into high quality, right? And then you'll see things correctly. I'm going to leave default settings as fast. And this says 3.7 points. I'm going to say there, I'm going to say, okay. And when you see things fast, things look pixelated. I don't know why mine are still not showing as pixelated, but let me turn fonts into something smaller. I'm going to turn this font here that we changed before. I'm going to select it all and make it 6 points. See, something's wrong. This should be a block. Greek text is under 6 points, should be a block. It's not responding. I think something's up. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's an old file. The whole point is when you change the display settings, the idea is that it's to help you handle a document like this that has links to a ton of really big files. And if it had, 20 pages, it would be really hard for your computer to show you all these photos in good quality. So by showing the display as lower, it should be bringing you little pixelated versions of them. It's not doing that, and I don't know why, but that's so that it can work. You can work in the program better. I'm going to move on because since I can't demo what I'm showing you, it's kind of weird. Let's keep going. Let's do the pre-flight. Noticing here, Christina said, you figured out what the issue, it's a font issue to do with a document master. All right. Did it help at all to be looking at fonts and stuff like that and see what the problem was? Remember I told you guys, a typical problem with other documents is fonts. Well, Christina's working on a real document, right? She said she had a problem and look what she's saying. I think it's a font issue. How many times if I could get money for telling you when there's something not working, check your fonts. Fonts is a problem, especially with older applications. Anyway, maybe it's that, I don't know, but cool. And it could be that it's font that you might have not known was there because you're not using it, but it was in the master, and thus it's not something you're actually using because maybe you're not applying that master page, and so you're wondering what's happening to it because you maybe have many masters. Who knows? Okay. By the way, and then this isn't master anymore. Now it's parent page. Okay. Let's go to the. Let's say that we're ready to print. And for some reason, we're looking at the document in this mode and we haven't paid attention to the fact that a lot of our stuff is missing. We haven't looked at the 32 errors or something. Let's head over here to the 32 errors and figure out the next step before you go to print is pre-flight. Check your document to see that everything is good. So where do you start the pre-flight? Let's head over here, 32 errors, open up this thing, and let's go to the pre-flight panel. And here we go. The pre-flight panel is showing me, again, my errors. I'm going to close the text to see it. No, there don't seem to be any image errors. If there were missing links or modified links, they'd come up here. But no, all my 32 errors are in text, okay? They're all here in text. And again, it's the different, oh, I remember, I see now why the style still was set. Oh, know, I said the paragraph style, why is it still saying ITC? It's because at the beginning, I didn't tell it to modify styles. So my old style still said ITC, even though it doesn't work. But my new one, but it couldn't use ITC. Okay, got it. If you guys don't know what happened, I just resolved it in my mind. There's two problems here. One is missing font and one, so when I open text, it says one is overset text and 31 are missing fonts. Remember what overset text meant? Remember the example I gave here where if you have overset text, it shows you a little plus sign because there's more text than what you can see. But by not having checked every document, I don't know where that overset text is. So I'm going to sit here and go, okay, well, I don't know where it is. Well, good news. They're going to show me. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And it tells me that's where the error is. In a text frame on page 1. Well, I have a ton. So which one? So I'm going to just double click right here. And it selected the problem. And there it is. Aha. I go up and see there's some overset text right there. So I'm going to click on that plus sign to see what that overset text is. And just to check it out, how much is it and what is it? I can go over to the pasteboard. I'm having an issue with redrawing today. Let me undo that. Let me drop it in here. There's nothing in that box. From here to here, there's nothing in that box. So whenever this text came in, right, this is the threaded. You see how it's the thread? But whenever brought in that text, they had probably made a lot of like paragraph space, 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 space with no text. But as far as the computer is concerned, there's more text. So I need to go in with my type tool, select whatever's in here, right? Let's see if I can select and hit delete. I don't know, that's the only thing you might be able to do that. Or let's do it the other way around. I'm gonna head over here. I deleted that. Let me go over here. It could be a page, it could be a paragraph. Let me make this bigger here and let's see what pops in. And now from here, maybe I'll grab from the end and just that was it. It was one paragraph. It was one extra space. See, that's all it was, one extra space. See how by selecting space, that is actually a hidden character. I'll hit return to get rid of them, right? And now I'll make this small again to wherever it's supposed to be. I don't remember exactly where it was supposed to be. There we go. And now I've handled that overset text. See that? It's done. Now I don't have an issue with overset text. And I look over here, only 31 errors, and this error on the preflight panel is gone. So did you see what I did to handle that? It was just an extra space. I first tried to put it somewhere to see, do I have 10 more lines? Do I have 2 more lines? When there's nothing, well, then it's an extra space. So I went in and I got rid of it. Okay. Now the rest of the thing, did that work? Everyone's fine with that? You fixed that text? No questions? All right. Now let's open the fonts. And here we already knew about this. These fonts were a problem, but if I want to see where they are, before we didn't know where they were, we can see that it's in page 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. So let's choose one. And it's showing me that one. That's interesting. It's only 2 characters. It's this space. So this is what drives me crazy about this document. When you make a mess of things, that space between that and that is in a font that we don't use. And again, here, one character. These are little mini spaces. And it happens here again, 4 characters. No, these are full sentences, okay? But these are just little tiny spaces. It's just crazy. But you're going to get documents of every type and kind that you'll receive. So one easy, just simple thing for this is to change it into anything that does work. So since we know Arial works, we can just change it. So let's put our mouse in here and select that space. Go into properties and change it once again into Arial. So who cares? It's just a space, right? Now, it's, as you can see, it would have been much faster to fix it at the beginning. Here you'll have to go and choose every single one at a time. But there we go. That one's gone. There's no more little pink on it because I don't have that problem. Sorry, I didn't mean to undo. And I'm going to have to do that again and again and again. So now I'll go find the next one, right? And so on and so forth. I'm going to double click on this one. Ideally, what you would do is change the styles. If the styles are working, change the styles. And again, it's that little space. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. It's little spaces that are on here. I haven't done this in a while on this one. Let's change it again to Arial. And if I go, I probably have it at the top. This is the font I'm using most right now. So I can either write it or I can just change it to Arial. Anyway, so it's easier to just write it and change it to Arial and so on and so forth. And as I begin to get rid of these problems, it goes down 30, 30, 30, 30, and it's beginning to go down. There's that tiny little bit of little problems. And here we have it in 2 places, another character style. All right. I'm going to go ahead and show you one more thing. I guess in this one, they've already been taken out of the pasteboard. Yeah. In the beginning one, there's some stuff on the pasteboard that had to be handled. Okay. So anyway, if this is what's happening, and now I'm going to just be done at the beginning, you change everything that's, you know, avant-garde into something, into something, into something, and then like choose Mini and Pro or whatever for everything, Arial Pro for everything, and then you don't have to go individually fixing it. Ideally, by the time you're ready to pre-flight, you might have 1 or 2 errors and nothing else. Okay, I would have to change everything individually. And what drives me crazy is that's just like a couple. It's not even the whole article. It's little spaces and characters here and there. So I'm not going to bother fixing it because it's going to drive me and you crazy. But you see the process, right? Hopefully you'll never get such a messy document in your future. Let's now go to the final step. Let's imagine that we fixed them because this is the way you'd fix them. Let's forget about it. Let's do the W and go, oh, it's beautiful. It's been fixed. I don't need to fix anything anymore. Well, I have no errors. This is green. Okay, what do we do with this document now? How do we get it ready for print? Now, if it's going to my computer printer, just print. Life is good. If it's going to a printer, again, we said at the beginning, you have to ask them what to do, what you need to do with this. But let's assume it's going to a printer that says, all I want is a PDF. Don't give me anything else, which more and more printers are doing that, right? For better or for worse, that's typical of the people who are, if you want, I'm going to call them Vistaprint, who they're going to receive whatever you give them and they're going to print it, period, good or bad. You give them this, you ask for 1,000 of these, you're going to get 1,000 of these. If there was any error, any mistake, anything missing, anything to change, they don't care. They'll print whatever you give them. That's what they print. So it's like quick, and hopefully you did all your editing and pre-flighting ahead of time. Now, if you sent a font that had errors and you sent it that way, it'll come back a mess. That's your problem. They're like, hey, lady, you gave me the PDF. That's on you, right? Now, why do printers like PDFs? Because they just, they don't have to bother with fonts. They don't have to bother. That's it. That's the main thing. They don't have to bother with fonts, which are such a hassle across the world. They don't have to have the font that I have. I just said, so if Christina MTD sends me an image to work on, I need the fonts. I need them to give me the actual font file so I can work on it. If I send this file then to a printer that needs the full-on InDesign file, and that would be a situation where the printer can open it, can look and see if there's anything that's a mess and contact you and go, hey, we're missing a font. And you send them the font and then they fix it. Ideally, you'd already sent it to them. Then they will fix it before you'll get a proof, you'll approve the proof, and then you'll send it back, and then they'll print it, and then you won't waste, money on 10,000 newsletters that are suddenly have some big mistakes. But when you send a PDF, they can't change anything. It's like a static thing, and it doesn't need fonts anymore. It's just one file, and everything you know, you don't send all of the links. All they see is the little version of the photo, right? So it's really much more comfortable and ideal. And most people at this point, not most people, digital printing. Digital printers are going to ask you for the PDF file. Offset printers are still going to ask you for a whole bunch of other stuff. So we're going to save it both ways. So let's say that we're taking this to the, we'll make a PDF out of it. It's not any old PDF though. It's not like your typical save as PDF and off you go. There's a couple different types of PDFs and many different versions of printing. So we don't save as for a PDF in InDesign, we export. So let's go and export this file. And let me back off for a second. In the example where we need to work on this one, there's some mistakes there that you need to catch, like missing bleeds and stuff like that you need to fix. Let me say the pre-flight will not fix that. If you were missing, if you didn't put your bleeds correct or stuff like that, the pre-flight is not going to fix it. Pre-flight is going to fix text and missing links, okay? So you yourself have to look at stuff like bleeds. This one doesn't have those problems, but the original one, we say start, it has some issues with bleeds. Okay, I wanted to show you that bit. When you're looking at this like this, you can't tell, but when you hit the W, you can look and check and see that if the bleeds are correct, right? And I believe this one, all the photo, oh, maybe not. Yeah, look at that. I thought this one was correct, but it's not. You see what's happening here? See, this didn't come up in the pre-flight. This is not going to work. So you need to go and check all the photos. And if I now try to just stretch the box, that's not going to work either because this photo was set up to not work with the bleed. So what would be the final solution to this? What would I have to do for this to work? I haven't actually reviewed this. We did this at the very beginning. I need to fit this photo. I need to either expand the content, right, by hand, or one quick option would be, what if I move this over a little bit with the grabber? I don't like the grabber, but you can do that. Click the grabber and just move the photo over. And so it ticks there. Now you have to be careful. As long as there's photo over here, that's good enough. But you have to be careful because this is the margin and it's getting very near her face. Is this still going to work? Well, I think so. It's not so bad. It's not so near the margin. I think that's still going to work. But sometimes it won't work to do that, right? Like if this photo had already been there and now you need to move it even more, you don't want to suddenly have like half her face or whatever. So I'm going to undo it. So that's the quick solution. Another solution would have been to refit the photo, right? So you go over here and you tell it to fill the frame proportionally. You do that, and then it refits itself instead of doing it by hand. Well, that would have been a solution. If none of that works, if the photo really isn't going to work anymore because you just don't have the material, then you have to go back and fix it in Photoshop to make it be the right size. But in this case, all that needed to be done is someone just forgot to put it in the bleed, right? So try the filling the frame in different ways. And in this case, fill it proportionally allows it to expand itself. But you first need to have done this, right? You need to have first expanded your frame, you know, and then it'll put it over there and then it'll work. Okay. All right. So let's do that. And let's go around and see. Okay. So here the bleed is taken care of, but this is going further than the bleed. Is that a problem? No, not really. Ideally, a cleaner thing would be to put this document to fill at the bleed. But if you do that, hold on. I know. Oh, that's my alarm telling me I need to give you guys a break. Then see what happened? The inside stuff moved, and now over here, it's not covering the bleed. So be careful when you just think, oh, this is a quick solution. It doesn't hurt to have it out, so leave it out. This might be a problem because if there's some bleed that's not covered, right? So that might be an issue. So you might need to move this one up a little bit to make sure that the bleed gets covered. Anyway, so you have to go through all your corners and find out what's happening to the bleed. Now this is just paper background, so it doesn't need. Okay, bleed is covered, bleed is covered, bleed is covered. Yeah, this one could do better. It's a little bit short. but it's pretty much covered. Okay, anyway, and you just do that up and down, all right? So right now, I just wanted to show you can't just make assumptions, make sure that the bleeds are good, because errors do not point out if there's an issue with bleed. Make sure if you have a column that's supposed to go color all the way, that includes bleed, even if it's not an image, and so on and so forth. All right, so say that now we think it's okay. Now let's go ahead and say export as. Okay, let's do the export. Export. And it tells us how do you want to save this file, and I'm going to put it in my class files for digital techniques. I'm going to put it inside the, and here I'm just going to call it, I'll make a new folder. I don't want to mix it with all my other files because this is just a sample. So I'm going to say new folder. I'm going to call this one ready for print, right? Something like that. And SK newsletter. Okay. And then I'll just say create for that folder. If you're on a PC, the new folder, I think image is over there up on the top left. And then I'm going to call this one Star King newsletter. Again, ready for print or something like that. FPP would be for printing purposes, but anyway, let's just say ready for a sample, right? I'm just a sample because I don't want to mistake later and think that this one is ready to go. So anyway, I'm just giving it a name. Period. It's going to be inside that folder. And down here, it's asking me what kind of PDF, interactive or print, right? Or do you want me to save out a JPEG from here or other stuff? No, we definitely don't want to turn this into these kind of things if it's going to print. But it makes a difference if you're asking for what kind of PDF. So we said this one's going to print. So we're going to click on Adobe PDF print. If you say interactive, it's the one where you want people to maybe click on this arrow to move to the next page, or you know, fill out the forms, all that kind of stuff. We just want a basic flat print. We'll say save, and we're not done because this whole thing comes up. I'll give you a break after we're done with this. Okay, what kind of PDF are you going to give them? Well, it's possible, depending on what the basics are. If you said Adobe PDF for print, you might already see the high quality print in there. But you can't assume that this is the PDF that people are going to want. This is the moment you do need to pick up either your phone or go to the website of the printer who's going to print your thing and ask them, what are your PDF settings that you need? You truly need to know that. You cannot guess, because some will want high quality print. Some are going to want, you know, press quality. Some are going to want, you know, PDFX 2001. You do not know. Different companies need different things depending on the machine printer they have. Let's assume it's high quality print, because at this point for a PDF, that's probably most of the times what they want. The only other thing you need to ask the printer is whether they want crop marks and things like that. And so let's go see what that is. I'm going to head over to marks and bleeds. Well, compression would be where you tell them what to do with the photos. If you have images that are higher than 300 PPI, it's going to downsample it to 300. That would be an example. Now, be careful, because if this is just like, this would be a place for you to, what you don't want is that images that are less than 300 to be reformatted here. You should have done that already, or you should have done that in Photoshop or whatever. So this is not the place to have the photos be upsampled. Downsampled is okay. All right, head over to marks and bleeds. And just for us to understand what all these marks are, let's click on all printers marks. But most of the times printers will tell you which ones they want. They might just only want crop marks. Everyone wants crop marks. It's rare they don't want crop marks. Some of them want everything else, depending. An offset printer wants everything else. A digital printer might not need anything else. So, but let's click on all printers marks so that you can see what these all are to know what they are. As I said, crop marks is pretty traditional. The rest depending on the type of printer that you're going to do. If you have bleed, do you want them to set up a bleed, or do you want to use the ones that you have and use document settings? Because we created the size of bleed that's our own. Since we have the traditional size bleed, it probably isn't an issue if you don't do that and they'll put their own. But ideally, if you have bleeds, you do say bleeds. All right. We're ready. The rest doesn't, I mean, if you wanted the rest, you won't make any changes. If you want to have an idea, they're talking about colors and that kind of stuff. We're just going to assume that it is set up correctly. Again, if the printer said something differently, go and change the other ones, but rarely do any of the others get changed. All right, I'm gonna say export. It's warning me, hey, you know, fonts aren't there. So it's giving one more chance to fix that, right? I should not say okay if there's missing fonts. Truly, I should not. It just is not okay. This is not going to print well. But right now, only for this teaching purposes, I'm going to say okay because I don't want to sit and work on all these fonts. But you cannot send this to print if there's any missing fonts. Just know that. I'm going to say okay. Cool. All right. So let's go see what happened. What is that file that was given to us? I'm going to head over to, oh, I wasn't sharing my bridge. Let's just look at that really quickly and then we'll take our break. I'm going to have to reshare. I'm going to have to first open it and then reshare bridge because otherwise I won't be able to show it to you. Okay, let's go in here and I saved it in the same folder, but I created a new folder. What did I call it? My brain isn't. Okay, called it Star King Ready for Print. Yeah, here it is. Here's my folder. Okay, ready for print. So wherever you found it, I created a new folder. I'm going to double click. And there's my PDF. Now, if I want to see it and I click on, I'm going to double click and open it because when from here, I can't really see it, double click. Now, because it's a PDF, it's opening up on my other screen. Hold on, because I have my Acrobat on another screen. I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to share the Acrobat screen with you guys. So give me a second. If I have Acrobat Pro for you guys, it possibly could be opening in preview mode or whatever your computer is using to show you PDFs. But here it is. Here's the PDF that has all of the printer's marks. And let me show you. The document finishes, maybe one that has a side that has color. Here we go, on this side. These marks over here are the ones that we had them add. And what are they good? Oh, goodness, I'm having a whole hard time redrawing today. You're there. This line right there is marking me where the bleed ends. But I can kind of see where the bleed ends. So that's why sometimes the bleed mark isn't so necessary because clearly it ends where the color is. Now it might help me in case someone didn't do this right and didn't put images into the bleed, but that's what's marking the bleed. This is the crucial one that everyone wants, which is the crop marks, right? Now, notice that these crop marks intrude into the image only in the bleed because this is really a line, but see how it only shows up in the bleed because this piece is going to be cut off, chunked off, and this little bit of line is going to go away. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Let me see if I can go a bit higher. Okay, and then I'll move over. When you print this piece of paper, oh, come on, to the right and to the top. It's having a hard time to show me. There we go. Imagine, draw an imaginary line over here across where this is and one over here. And all the stuff that's outside of it is gonna drop onto the floor. Just guillotine, cut it off, it's gonna drop onto the floor. So this little line intrudes only a little bit into the bleed, but that's enough. If those aren't there, printers don't know where to cut it. So you definitely, if you have bleed, you need to send crop marks. The next thing that intrudes into our bleeds is this. And those are the marks. Let me go back into InDesign for a second and I'm going to try to export again and I'll show you the different, let me just say whatever, untitled and marks and bleeds. There we go. So you have registration marks, color bars, page information, and bleed marks. Okay, so we already saw crop marks and bleed marks. registration marks, color bars, and page information. These are the color bars. Color bars are the way that printers can tell, and then when you receive a proof, you can tell if the colors are showing up correctly, because when the printer sends you a proof back, this might be a pale yellow or a bright orange. And unless you have some way to tell if that's correct, the printer doesn't know what color I chose for this green and for this orange. So they use color bars because they do know. They have machines that measure this yellow and they tell them this yellow should look this way, this pink should look this way. This is standard. This always has to look a certain way. So by them putting this on this, when they print it out, they don't look to see if the orange or the green are correct. They don't know what colors they chose, but they look over here and go, "Ooh, my magenta is looking a bit purplish. Oh, my blue is looking a bit reddish. Oh, my yellow is not dark enough." You know what I mean? They check color on these things. They have a machine actually that reads them and go, "Oh, looks like I need to run this again and bring down the magenta or add yellow," or whatever they need to do. They fix their printer, they run it through again. When they're happy that these bars look good, then they send them to you, and hopefully your printed piece has this green and has this yellow. Does that make sense? It's a way to gauge, because they can't really tell what green you chose, but they can tell what the screen should look like. If the screen doesn't look like it should look like, because this is standardized, they fix until that looks good. Then they consider their job well done and they send you the proof. You approve it, or you say, "No, it's still too much this or it's still too much that." Okay. In the middle, we have the registration marks. Registration marks are only for offset printers. Digital printers, I believe, don't need them. I'm not 100% about that. Sure about that. But digital printer people don't tend to ask for them, so that's why I think they don't need them. I had some samples of this, which I don't have them here with me today. I should. I don't know where I put them. When you send this to the printer, they're going to create films. They're going to create 4 films. Imagine x-rays, you know, kind of, I don't know if you've seen one. Well, people don't get x-rays anymore, they get photos. It's a piece of plastic, basically, which each one of them is going to have a different kind of amount of yellow, cyan, magenta. Yeah, that's what, you know, CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and it'll be 4 films. And they're going to have to put first the yellow. They create a whole set of white paper that they push through with a bunch of yellow printed on it. Then they have to change and add the magenta, and then they run the paper through that, and then suddenly that paper is added, you know, yellow and magenta are now on top of each other. Then they run it through again and they add the black in it. So they do it that way. By the time the 4th run is through, by adding all those 4 colors, this kid looks like this kid, right? This green looks like this green. But they need to make sure that each one of these films is well registered. Otherwise, you start getting those things where you get a little halo of color on the edges of stuff. Have you ever seen? It doesn't happen so much anymore now with digital printers, but it used to be forever. When I was growing up, or when I was even in college, you'd buy something and there'd be like a little extra red or a little extra bit of, you know, cheap kind of tabloid things have that. That's because the films weren't well registered. So then the red is printing tiny bit out to the right and the yellow tiny bit to the left, and then you get these extra lines of color. Okay, so that's what the registration marks are for. What else? Let me go to the other end. Here's the same color bar, but they're the grayscale, and that's to see if the tonality, is this too dark or too light? Like, they don't know how it has to be again, but they do know what this white needs to look like, what's pure black, what's middle gray. So they use this to make sure that they got the right definition. And here we have again lead margin crop line. At the very bottom, and oh, by the way, these registration marks appear on all 4 sides in the middle. And then at the very bottom, this is that page information, which in my case, since this file, I didn't give it a name, it still says untitled, page 1, right? And then another thing will say entitled, page 2. And that is this page information, okay? So later, if something's wrong, you can go ahead and say, "That's not what I sent you to print." And they can go, "Yes, it is. And let me see, what file did you send?" and you check and it's like, oh my God, I sent you that file. It should have been this file, right? So this gives you an idea of what file they're printing. In my case, they're printing Untitled 1. I hope maybe because mine crashed and started again, it reset it. But as you can see, that's the file that I sent them. I sent them Untitled 1. Hopefully yours has a name of whatever you sent. So anyway, that's what all the printers marks are. And when you send them this file, all of this is going to get cropped out. Oh, and over here, there's also, that's the file. And over here is there's the date. And this one kind of matters, by the way, because when you get one proof and then you get another and they look slightly the same, there's just a slight change. You might not know which one's first of all. Well, this is the one that from 5/19/23. The next one is going to be from 5/19, whatever. So anyway, that's what that is. Time of when you created the PDF. All right. There you go. I'm going to stop my share. We're going to go into what other stuff needs to be done, packaging the files, sending the fonts to the printer, all of that. We're going to do that after break. Before I go, any questions about what I just showed? Nope. All right, so be back at, it's 11:06. So let's say it's 11:05. Let's be back by 11:20. 15 minutes, or to be precise, 11:21, whatever. There we go. All right, see you guys soon. All right, I'm back. But since I said 21, you can still be out there walking around. But since you hear me, start coming back. Make your way back. And when you're here, give me some sign of life, either with a nice smile like Moni, or give me a little yes, so now that I'm here. If I don't see your video. All right.
I just wanted to thank you for all your classes. I've had so much fun. So I won't be able to do summer, but I'm hoping to do
You're
the fall.
welcome.
So
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I kind of groaned a little bit when they gave me these new workshops to teach because I haven't taught them in a while and I had to update, you heard it all in the classes. But after the fact, I'm really glad because for those of you who were part of this whole series, you got so much more in-depth information, right? It's like, I wish you could teach everything in one class, right? But that kind of complemented a lot of what you've been learning in your other classes. So I'm really glad. So for any other of you guys who want a more rounded information about how to grade a product, where do you start from, a bit more of the marketing information, like Christina mentioned, all that kind of stuff. That was in the compelling content. And in the newsletter and design class, I really dug deep into stuff like styles and, row, columns, guides, grids, and all of that, which really should be the basis of good design in any product that you create. So yeah.
I filled up a whole notebook since January of all the different classes. So
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let me just say one more thing then about, I'm going to just do two more things about InDesign. So that was the document that you do for print, right? Oh, let me share my screen. And Acrobat. Okay. Share. Oh, I need different pages to share. Oh, but that last time I did that and too many things didn't. Okay. So anyway, so I left you here. I was showing you the PDF ready for print. Okay, that's one creature. But clearly this is not what we want if we're going to send it, to a website, as an email, as something for people to download and keep their little flyer, whatever they need. This is a very particular kind of PDF, usually the one you would lose the least unless you're going, as I said, to an offset printer. You're going to do 10,000 or something, or 2,000 or something. It doesn't need to be a huge number, but normally you do short runs on, 50 postcards for the show that's coming up, or 500 postcards for the show that's coming up. But when you want, to print a book or, a magazine, or actually something, the catalog, the schedule, how many, just offhand, Christina, when you guys run the schedule booklet for MTD, like how many do you print at a time? Do you have any idea? I mean, it's usually pretty large runs, right?
Several thousand at
At a
least.
time, yeah. Because
Yeah.
then, you don't want to print too many because what if something changes, right? In the routes or something, but you want to have enough that you wouldn't just, definitely wouldn't run those off your printer.
Well, and we have them, we print them and then we have them stored, and then we have a person who distributes them like on a monthly basis, like to see where we need more at the transit center or
Schools and stuff like that.
yeah, or like at our in our driver's room and stuff to take onto the buses.
Mhm. Yeah, cool. Great. So now when you're doing like a one run of something, like when you print a coffee table book, I did a lot of books in the past, you can't like progressively print 2,000, right? Like the publisher pays for, we're going to just put out 10,000 in the market and that's it. If people buy them all up, we'll hold a whole another edition, and then a year or two later you print out another bunch. So it's not, then those are real numbers, big numbers. All right, I just wanted to show you one thing I neglected to say before we do the next PDF, that you don't have to wait to the final export to replace your fonts. If you're in the here I showed you how to do one by one when you wanted to see if it worked. But if you just want to mass change all of them again, like you would have at the beginning, then you would go up to the type choice up there, and then there's find and replace font. Okay. And then at that point, yeah, you would have the whole thing we had again, and then you would just blindly grab all of these and just change them. Let's say that we say change them all to Minion Pro, for example. I'll say done, change all, forget it. I'm not even thinking about it. I know that Minion, let's say Arial, because at worst Minion Pro is truly not even
sans, and these are all sans, so let's just say Arial. Again, you don't have to do this, it just let me just show you this. I go with Arial regular, and I'll say change all, every instance changes all, right? Then I click on the next one, and I'm going to say change all. So I'm just basically changing all to the same thing, which you wouldn't do, but just so that you see the difference down there, I'm going to leave only one unchanged. Okay, there we go. I'm going to leave only one unchanged. So we still have the message if something's wrong, but that's how you would quickly do everything. When that would work, then you have to go back and say, okay, does this look good as a design? Print it out and go, maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want a different font. So now you can individually go back, and the way I see it, what you would do is you would go and set up those rules correctly and make everything that's this, turn it into that, everything that's this, turn it into that, and then boom, your whole document gets changed in once. But anyway, so now I don't have all the horrible pinks anymore. I did leave one mistake, which turns out to be 4 errors. Why? Because, and I'm gonna go to the pre-fight panel. Again, this is just showing you because I don't want to run through the whole thing again, because I still have, when I made my changes to everything Arial, looks like I ended up with overset text on 2 other places, right? So this would warn me, and I'd have to go and find those 2 places, fix the overset text, and then the missing font that I didn't change, Trajan Bold, appears in 3 different spots. So that's why I have 4 errors. I'm going to leave these errors right now, but I just wanted to show you there is a quick way to change everything. Then you would minutely go in and figure out, was that the right font for this thing or not? Deal with all the overset texts. Okay, now say that that's done with. Now we already did our export for PDF. Let's head over here and export this time for screen. So I'm going to call this one, instead of ready for print, I'm going to call this one Star King newsletter for screen, whatever, for screen. The other one should have said for print, this one didn't. So down here, if you say interactive, you will only be given the choices for PDF screen. But this one, it really isn't an interactive one either, right? So give it a second, don't do this. If I were to choose interactive and say save, just watch. See how I have many less choices? I only have the choices. Before I had a bunch of choices, printer, all that stuff. They just don't even give me those choices, right? But what if you didn't change that? So now we go back to where you guys are. And, oh, God, I forgot to hit the name again. So hold on, for screen. And I have still chosen Adobe PDF. Maybe you forgot to change it here. It's not an issue because, in fact, it's fine because this really isn't an interactive PDF. Let's say save from here. Then over here, you would have different choices. You know, we had high quality print. Which one of these would be the one for a screen print? And it would be the very bottom one, smallest file size. Because think about this. When you want to go to the internet, you want the smallest file possible. If you're going to put it up as a file to be downloaded, maybe people can download the MTD, schedule as a PDF into their home computers or onto their phones if they use it a lot, instead of having a piece of paper hanging around, a little booklet. So, so either because it's going to display on the web, or because it's something you're sending as an email, or you're sending it to be downloaded from the internet, you're going to want to have a small file. So look what happens when I do choose smallest file size. It tells me 2 things happen. Use these settings to create Adobe PDF documents best suited for on-screen display, email, and the internet. What I said. Now, when I go to compression, there's a difference because now the images get compressed much smaller. They're going to go down to be 100 or 100. Anything above 150 is going to be downsampled down to 100, which is 72 ppi. But yeah, it still becomes much smaller. The goal here is to get a smaller file. Don't try to print from this one. The print will look horrible. So you have to make a distinction. When you save things as PDF, you have to add the tag for screen for this, because later you might just have PDF and you get rid of them and you might not notice, and you might go ahead and send the wrong one to the printer and you'll get a low quality setup. Why? They're all PDFs, but there's not a different type of PDF. They just say PDF. So unless you change it in the file name, you might not know this. You might check the file size and you go, oh, this is a small file size. But other than that, you wouldn't really know. So they're going to compress your photos into image quality low. So they're going to get in Photoshop, I don't know if we did this here or not, but low quality photo, that's gonna be pretty compressed. Those photos are gonna look horrible. If you print them, they're looking to get pretty low even in this PDF, but good enough. You're gonna see it on your phone or whatever, it's still gonna work. But the choices here of smallest file size are as small as it gets. You might go, well, I want it small, but I don't want my images to look so bad. So you might change it to medium quality or something like that. I'm just saying, but then you would get a bigger file. Let's leave it on the minimums, the minimum sizes that's possible. Marks and bleeds, nothing. You wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to use the document print setting, bleed settings, because you don't want bleed, right? So basically, it goes into this mode. Fine, we think everything's good. We say export. And then it warns me, I don't have all of my fonts wrong again, but I do have one, so it tells me that. I'll say, okay, right now I'll say, okay, I don't care. And there's another warning that comes up. Oh, not this one too. I'm gonna still say okay to fonts. I don't want that one. This is the one I'm looking for. Here's the final warning that I get. The documents blend, basically the document isn't, it's just telling me the document isn't CMYK and you're going to screen. So this one was designed for print, ready to be in CMYK. That's good if you're gonna only print it, but if you're also going to screen, you should have started in RGB so that your screen looks good and bright and shiny. And then you would change to CMYK, the one that goes to print, because CMYK is the one where the colors get dulled and less bright and flatter. So by default, you want to be working in the RGB mode to start with, if your print is going to go both ways, if this is going to go both ways. The negative of working in RGB from the beginning is that colors are going to look beautiful and wonderful, and then you go print it, and if you haven't checked whether they're going to look at it in CMYK, when you receive it, you go, whoa, this is flat, this is dull, where's my pink? You know, because colors do change when you put really bright, intense colors from RGB to CMYK. We have a minute, I'll show you that in Photoshop. But basically, if it's dual purpose, start with RGB. If not, here it's telling you, well, why don't you change it now? Okay, and how would you change it now? It tells you here how to. I'm not going to bother have you do it, but you go up to File, Edit, Transparency, Blend. But the problem is it doesn't make the photos better. If the photo has already been CMYK, you change it to RGB mode, but the photo stays in that bland, you know, CMYK version of it. Okay, so this is kind of an after the fact that you probably shouldn't get here. You probably should have started with an RGB one. Okay, but it's warning you, hey, you know, go to avoid color changes in the PDF, click over here, cancel that, change it. So that'll make you a good art screen print, but it won't change how good or bad your screen is going to go. Okay, so let's say okay, because I'm not going to go and have it do that. There's a much other stuff to do, but just following this instructions, you'd go there to the Documents Transparency Blend. Let's say, okay, I got it, thank you. And oh, since I said okay, did it not send out my, did it not create my, because I said, okay, like I'm going to change that or cancel. I think it didn't create my, I shouldn't have said, okay, I was talking so much. Let me see, did it create it? Now I'm curious. I have some others here. Yeah, ready for screen. Yeah, I did send it out. Sorry, these are others that I was playing with. So what you should have now, I'm going to delete each one. I guess I have to delete each one. Why don't you let me delete from here? Oh, sit, delete from here. And delete, sorry, I just, these were not two that I didn't need to have here. Don't want to confuse, no, not reject, delete. And delete. Okay, so these are the two we created. Now, the one for screen and the one for print, the difference is if I double click on this one, it opens up here. It has no markings on the corners. This is it. This is what we see is what we get, right? We're looking at it, but it also respected, it cut out the bleed automatically. It didn't include the bleed is what I'm trying to say. If you compare the one that we had before to this one, and I made it smaller so we could see it, but the only place it's easy to see because green is green, how do you know? But I'm looking at the photos that are going to the bleed. And over here on this one, you can see, let's go up, that there's like this white thing with a little bulky thing over there. And I just, if you go down here and you go up, that little portion is gone. See that? It doesn't have that. So basically it chopped off the bleed. It left the bleed in InDesign. It didn't include it for the one that's going for screen. Okay. So it's fine to design with bleed. And as long as you save it in the right savings, it won't include that extra bit because it knows that that was only there for printing. Okay. And make sure when you do the export though, to not say use bleed, like don't check the use bleed. And then this is what you get. You get it ready for screen, ready to go. And if you look at file sizes between the one that's ready for print and the one that's ready for screen, look at the difference here. The ready for print, it's 6.36 megabytes. The one that's ready for screen is 744 kilobytes, which is less than 1 megabyte. Okay, because 1,000 megabytes makes for 1,000 kilobytes makes for 1 megabyte, and this one is 6.36 of those. So it's like 6,000 kilobytes, and this is only 700 kilobytes. So it's much smaller. But that's why if you didn't name them differently, other than that this has the crop marks, what if you didn't put crop marks on this one, but it was for print, because some people don't want that, then these two are vastly different files for the end product. The output of these two is very different. Does that make sense, you guys? You definitely have to change that in the file name. Otherwise, people might not notice to come into Bridge to look at the metadata to know which one to send. So there you go. Any questions? No. All right. I think for now that's it in InDesign. I'm looking at the time that's left. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to show you one thing just as a reminder. Let me let's go to Bridge. Let's go to the original Star King folder, and I want to show you some stuff in Photoshop that I really want to get to today. So let's go back to the original Star King folder, and for a second open the one that says begin, because I want to show you what I haven't shown you templates and what it would look like. And this is a mostly filled in template, but it still has some things I need to fill in, and I want to show you how you would do that. Because this is something that comes out monthly or quarterly or whatever, you would have a basic template that you fill in. Let me double click and open. This is already going to have all the same problems, so we're going to ignore them, right? But one, in this case, for me, at least is saying there's actually a source that's missing, right? So I'm going to say okay to that. And it went to update it, and then the same old font. We'll just skip. We're not going to bother with the fonts with this one. Let's say skip. But here we go. This is that same, document ready for me to fill in the information, right? So maybe every month we change what's happening, what book we're reviewing or whatever. But in this case, there's not much other change. It's just every time you'd have a different article, but for the most part, the big part of the design won't change much, right? And so what you have is all these boxes ready to be filled in. You might change how many photos you put up here, something like that, but this is the idea, right? So how would you do that? Let's go, for example, and click on this top one, and let's say file place. And just so we can recognize which photo we had, the girl with huge flowers on her head, right? So let's say that we do that one. So when you want to bring in a photo that's already got its place, you will just select that holder, that placeholder, that frame in this case, and say file place. Now, Command D if you like shortcuts, otherwise go to file place, Control or Command D if you're a PC, say file place. And now you have to go find those photos. By the way, if you have Bridge next to you, you can just drop it in. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Let me go over to the class files here, which I believe are there. Ready for print, Star King. I'm trying to remember where I had. Here it is, Star King newsletter. Links. I'm going to open the links. And here are the photos. As you can see, they don't have good names. It's horrible. They just say 1, 2, 3. So it would be easier if they describe them some way. But anyway, the first one is the one that we want for the top. And if I lost anyone, all I did is go find the right folder and open it. Now I had to find them through the Finder, which some people have no idea where their stuff is. They're confused. You might want to forget where you put them. So I'm going to show you later through Bridge another way to do this. But this is the way, if you know where your files are, go ahead, select it and say open. Now, instead of coming into my, why is it gray? That is surprising. This isn't doing what it should be doing. I'm wondering if it has to do with the format. This InDesign today isn't doing what it should be doing. I should be seeing like a half of a bit of the background, one petal, for example. It should be huge. But, and let me back out.
Same thing happened for me.
Yeah, so watch. This is how big my photo is. See this red line? If I click on this thing in content, it's as big as that, which is ridiculous. It's humongous. Because those files, had we opened them in Photoshop and look at the metadata, they're all set at 72 PPI. We looked at them a bit in Bridge. They're 72 PPI. They said they were going to be 23 inches. Remember how big they were going to be. And this is showing me how big the photo is. So this is a good example of when maybe I should first fit it into the frame. But why is it coming out gray? Why are the photos not pulling in? Is this all of them?
I think none of your photos are loading.
Yeah. Okay. Let's leave this example, but at least you see how you would do it. This photo is going to come out humongous. That is still showing. See, there's the whole photo for this one, right? So if you hit a little frame fitting, then it fits in there. You should be seeing the image, and then you move it around and you find the right position. Yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I have no idea why. But let me just show you this though. This is an example of stuff hanging out on the pasteboard where you're trying to decide, wait, should I bring this text or that text, or should I use this photo or that photo? You can use the pasteboard. The problem with, for better or for worse, when you export, they're going to ignore the pasteboard. But if you have weird fonts that you're not using and they're in here, that then comes in with the whole document, right? So you want to clear when you're done printing, just clean all this stuff up. Don't have little loose stuff hanging around. Okay, let's close this one, but so clearly, I don't know. I'm going to have to look at this. Maybe I have to go back and maybe they're corrupted. I have to go to my original ones and upload the new ones again. As I said, I haven't used this example in a while because I tried to change my examples and I wasn't aware that this was going to happen to it. So anyway, doesn't matter. At least I showed you. You select the frame, you bring it in, and then you refit it to the right size. So you respect the template, right? You just move things around inside of what's there. If it's text, you select the text and you place the text. So in this case, I would go Command D and set the Dear Parents one and say open, and then missing fonts, I got it, skip, and then there it drops in. But it drops into the first one, and then I have to pick up and drop this into the next place where the continuing part, whoops, it would be in that one, where the rest drops in, okay? So that's how I would work with stuff, with text. I would bring in the documents. It doesn't rethread itself into the second page. I would have to pick it up and drop it into the second page. All right.
I have a question.
Monica?
Yeah. So basically, when you set up a template, you're just setting up the frames.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're gonna create a document like, and yes and no, because sometimes what they do, the templates that you buy, like the templates that you want to use, yes, they'd be like this, empty, ready to go. The ones that you buy or download, they have uploaded photos and things to show you how pretty it is. And what you do is you select, when you say Command D to place, notice that what it does here, when you go choose one, it says, it automatically says replace selected item. And when you say yes, replace, it'll swap by their photo and bring in your photo. Does that make sense? Because that's the default for placing. It'll go, whoops, you beautiful photo of the template disappeared, put mine in there in its place. So if it's your template that you're using all the time, you don't need to always be erasing everyone else's samples. You just have your template be empty like this, and you just drop in your stuff, okay?
So I can also use one of my existing files and basically take out all the pictures and then have my template.
Yeah, I could have this be my template, and this month is June. I just save as, make my July one, and then I start replacing this photo for the new one, this photo for the new one. So I guess I could do that too, right? You could just use the one you have. But ideally, when you have this something that you'll be using a lot, you'll just, it's easier to start with something that's just boxes ready to fill in. But yeah, you could just save as and replace what's here each time, leaving the masthead the same, leaving the folio, all that the same, and then you go out of the way to do that. Okay, so so now you saw how to save both of these for print or for screen. Now let me just say that there's other ways you could export, and in case you ever need to, the other options that you could export would be EPS, EPUB, HTML, InDesign, JPEG, or whatever. I would be hard pressed to ever say you change this to HTML to make a web page, because no, that's not the way you would make a web page. That said, you can. So there is a way to design snippets or portions that's going to go on a web page and InDesign and then bring them in. But this wouldn't be like a good way to then put this up and have this be a web page, just so you know. But you could use it. EPUB, which is the like Kindle books or whatever, to be seen on screen. So there's different kinds, reflowable, fixed. The reflowable would mean it's one that if you're in a phone reading like this, and then you switch your phone to the side, it would reflow, versus, nope, you can only read it up and down, right? So that would be fixed layout or not. This is a good one. InDesign markup, IDML. I told you from the beginning, whenever you see in DML, that's because you want this format to be saved so that any version of InDesign can open it. So it kind of takes out special stuff from it that might be only available to newer options. You might save it as a JPEG, PNG, or XML. The problem with this is that if you save it as a JPEG, everything will be, you know, pixelated. But if you're trying to make a little thumbnail, click on this to download, you can have the little thumbnail in a JPEG of this. People click on it and it opens up to the actual download file that they download, right? You wouldn't put a little mini PDF, you would put a little thumbnail of it. So this might be a way to make, you would get this page and say, you would maybe get the front page and say, hey, download this month's newsletter or something like that. All right, let's go ahead, unless there's any other InDesign questions. And remember where I went to say to change the fonts would be under the type menu, replace fonts if you have an issue like that. Paragraph styles, that's the part that I really wish I had a bit more time to show you. But the way I would fix this would be going into paragraph styles and redefining the font that should be used for each one. You say, okay, and boom, everything will change instead of having to go through replace fonts and stuff like that. But that's for a more advanced version of InDesign class, if I ever get to teach you that. Let's close these up and let's go into Photoshop. I have some Photoshop stuff to show you. Oh, there's the question though first. Moni?
Oh, I'm not sure if I missed it. Did you say about how to use the bridge to get the photo?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I apologize. I was going to show you that. So yes, I didn't. So say that I stopped because this wasn't bringing in my photos. So I was complicated, but say that you have bridge on your screen, right? So I'm going to put, do you see them both? Is it working? Yeah, so it's kind of hard on EP and this to show you, but say you go in here and you go to the Star King newsletter, go into the links. And if I just want this photo in there, right? So say that this is what I want, I can just grab this photo and just drag it from here and pop it in there, right? And that'll work. But photos are not showing right now, right? Which I can't do. But yeah, if this photo was showing, then that would be the way to do it, right? If I go and let me make a new file, one that doesn't have whatever mess this has. I'm gonna go to default size photo and I'm just gonna make a frame here, right? There you go. And I want one of these photos, then I'll grab this and drop it in there and, you're right, it's something about my photos, something about my links that isn't working. Let me go not to Star King, but to other class files. Let me put this one in there. Let me undo that. And now let me grab this one that we know is working and drop it in there. Oh, remember I changed the fast display that I said wasn't working? Oh, man. Remember I said that isn't working, that isn't working. It wasn't working on the file that was already open. That's what's happening. Sheesh, my brain. That gray is just, it's the fast display that I changed it to. Display performance. It doesn't want you to see all the photos, which is only good later when you're moving around. Typical would give me the in-between size, or high quality would be the high quality. Let me just straight take high quality. I'm going to say okay. And then, but I guess I have to open. So let me just don't save. And when a file is open, it's not changing. So now I'm going to create a new document. That's what those boxes were. I couldn't, it's been a while since I used the fast display because I have a fast computer. I needed to do that. Okay, now I'm going to grab a photo and I'm going to drop it in there. And there we go. The photo's in there. Oh, my brain sometimes. I forgot that that's the gray box you get for fast display. Okay, so there's my photo and I just dragged it in. Okay, so that was my issue. And then this photo, which as you can see is much bigger and doesn't fit in the thing that I made, then I would go in here and, for example, choose to auto fit it or to fit content proportionally, or, you know, the different versions of fitting. But in this case, I got the whole photo. In this case, it fits the frame that I gave it, which means I don't see the whole photo. And then I choose if I go up or down. And then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see only the boring part. I don't need the rest. And yay, life is good. Okay. God, that drove me crazy. I'm like, what is this great stuff? I haven't had to use the fast display in so long that I forgot. That's what's happening here. But now that I changed it, I have to close and open up again. All right. I'm going to close all these open files that I have, and I'm going to say don't save, and I'm going to take you into don't save, and I'm going to take you into, that's why this wasn't changing, because it was open. Had I closed it and opened it up, you would have seen gray boxes everywhere. When I went to typical, that was fast. Typical, it wouldn't show you gray boxes, it would show you pixelated photos, and then high quality shows you this, which is the good photos. Okay, I'm going to close this out. I'm going to take us to Photoshop, because I'm going to actually completely close InDesign because I've had so many issues with it. But I think it had to do with this quality display that I was showing you. I will now take us to Photoshop. I don't need Acrobat right now. Well, I'll leave it open because it will show something later. Let's go to Photoshop. Okay. Oh, I have some open already. You guys go over. It was so slow that I pre-opened these during the break so that I wouldn't have issues with waiting for them. Go to Bridge. And what do we do with text when we're in Photoshop, right? So this is something even in the regular Photoshop classes I don't teach, because usually people want to know how to fix their photos. But designers use Photoshop incredibly intensely. I'm going to have it open this one. It's called Web Banner Start. And then we're going to open this one too, the Smart Objects. And I'm going to see. So if you want to just go ahead and open them both, I already did. Let's start with the Web Banner. Let's head over to that. So here we go. So here's a very simple little file. It's going to be going to the internet. The name of it is Web Banner. This will not be printed, right? So first of all, what resolution should this photo have? And how do I check if it's already in the right resolution? I think I did this the first day with you guys, or the second day, but I did it rather quickly. So let me remind you, because I went to the Padlet and I could see that the very first or second day, there's some resolution conversation there, but I did it from inside of InDesign. This is inside of Photoshop, right? So one place without opening boxes and everything like that I want to check is down here. Let me put a little light on my screen. You know what? The other day I was looking, I evaluate different people for classes and whatnot, instructors, and I was doing some evaluations and I saw someone do this and I really liked it. So I'm going to adopt that. Hold on. This is what I'm going to adopt. The problem with this is that I have to change to my marker, but let's see. Will that work? Let's see. I want you to go, yeah, there it is, there. I'm going to do that again. There. That's cool, isn't it? That's what I'm pointing to. The problem is that then I have to leave that and change again to mouse to actually operate the program. That's why it's kind of clunky, but there you go. That's what I want to show. Okay, I changed back to my mouse. Now I can use it as a mouse. Okay, so over here, one of the places I could check is if I go to document sizes, it's showing me the final file size of how big this is going to be. And, you know, these are megabytes. That's pretty big. That kind of tells me this isn't really ready for the web yet. Let's see. I'm going to go over here to, yeah, someone answered 72 PPI in the chat. Yep. That would be what I want. I'm going to go to document profile, just telling me sRGB. Yes, sRGB is the right document profile for this to be on the internet. Anyway, basically, I'm not getting over here the right, well, over here I can see that it's 300 PPI. That's not the right size. So this might be the right design, but it's not ready for the internet. Okay. Now, how do I change it? This just is information, right? But how do I change it? But before I go to how do I change that, let's talk about the text, because, you know, text is an issue. Photoshop usually is going to save itself in pixelated version. So anything you make in Photoshop in text, I remember years ago when this wasn't so, you couldn't even consider text in Photoshop because it was not vectorized. But now any text that you make does appear as in vector format. So if I were to now click to write, it's kind of like Illustrator. It gives you a little lorem ipsum. Let's write sample. And in this case, it's coming out in whatever color I have here. And so it came out kind of grayish. If I wanted it to change, look over here on the right side. On the right side, it made a new layer. So I had background, I had Friday catering, and now I have my good old sample. And it says the words that I wrote, and that's how I know. If I want to change the color of it, I can go over here, double click, choose another color, say okay. And I have to then adapt. Oh no, I can't. I'm going to have to actually, yeah, I'm gonna actually have to select it to change its color. Each one has its own rules. So I'm going to select that text, and then I'm going to change the color to, no. I don't normally use this, but under what workspace am I working on? Hold on. I'm in the essentials. Okay, so there we go. All right, so then I should be able to just select it and change color. I don't know why it's not allowing me to just select it without text. Oh. Things are happening weirdly today. All right, I don't know why my text is not changing color. Maybe I have some kind of opacity. Okay, I don't know. I'll go up here then and change it from here. So when I select my text, see how I have suddenly a box that appears, and that would be where I change the text from. Click on that, change color, and say okay, and then it changes. Now, since it's selected, it's kind of hard to see what it's going to look like, so I can leave the text mode, and then there it is. Now that's the final color that I changed it to. Okay, so you can't do it to the layer. You have to actually do it to the text. It's not like Illustrator and InDesign where you can target the layer. Okay, so you have to go and put in your type tool, and then you can change the color of that. So now I'm going to make it green, bright green, so we can see it. There we go. Now, here's the thing. I'm making it bright green. I chose this color, and stop me if I've said this before in this class, because I know I said it in the last two classes I taught. Illustrator knows that, and my newsletter people know that, but did I tell you here what these warning signs are? People who are only taking this class, did I talk about these little like warning signs between this, see how they're gone, and this? We didn't talk about that? No, okay, it's good. I always ask people who are in my one-on class only, because the rest go, well, I'm not sure, I heard it somewhere. So Susan is saying no, so there we go. Yeah, I did not say it in this class yet. Okay, so this warning sign is telling me that this is out of gamut. What does out of gamut mean? It means that it's not going to show, I want this really bright color, but as much as it might show on RGB, right? It's certainly not going to show this way when I print. especially if I printed a CMYK. Well, whenever you print, even if you send an RGB file, it's going to print at CMYK because print happens only with inks, right? So that's a warning. Now, watch. If I decide, no, but this is not going to be printed, this is going to go for the web, depending on the kind of gamut it's out of, it might even be saying, okay, you're looking at this, but this is not really the color it is, right? So there's also an out of gamut for the web, but that's beyond the point. Right now, what matters is that I need to change it. So watch. Oh, look, if I hover, it even says click to select in gamut color. There you go. So I'm going to click and look at what a big change it did. I'm going to see if that can be undone. Nope, that cannot be undone. So I need to do it myself again. Look at this bright color that I want. I love it. It looks great against the gray, whatever choice I want it. And I go, oh, there's going to be a problem with this. If I print it, what color might it be if I print this? This over here, boom, look at big change. Oh, it switched. Now the other one had switched even more because you never know until you click it what it's going to change to. So I'm going to go to another tone of green and click and boom, look at the change there. And mainly look at over here, this that I thought I was going to get because I thought it was beautiful or whatever. When I hit that, this is what it's going to look like on my print. Now, sometimes it's fine. You're okay with that. That still looks good. And other times the change is so drastic that it just doesn't work anymore. Like you can't read it or something like that. But you want to be aware that if this is what's on the web, this same version, when you print it, you print your brochure, it's going to look like that. And you can't go, oh, it's a bad print. No, it's just that the medium of CMYK cannot give you the same amount of brightness that the light behind a screen, colors created in light with red, green, and blue, are not going to be able to look identical to colors created by inks that already are on a white surface and flat and whatever. So it's in these bright areas that you saw that problem. When you get into these areas, pretty much what they're saying, sure, this is going to be the same online that it's going to be on print, but you usually find these problems in the bright ones. So pink and green tend to be the worst whenever I want to find an example of gamut. Blues, yes, look at that, how much that changed, et cetera, et cetera. So just be careful in the bright, saturated tones. Okay, that's where you get that. Next thing I wanted to show you guys is over here. This is an Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, it's everywhere. When you open, you can do it from here, the color, let me show you again. This here, if I double click, this is the color picker. If you, right now, if I'm in like background, instead of being in text and I open it up, it gives you two options, foreground or background. So when I double click, it's the color picker for the foreground color versus for the background color would be that white one. Anyway, you can define this color in different languages, which is different color models. But let me say that this is as if this red was being called red in English, red in Italian, red in German, red in Latin, red in Spanish. It's different languages. See, there's a little bit of a difference in space there. HSB, hue, saturation, brightness, RGB, red, green, and blue, CMYK, hexadecimal colors, numeration, this is that color for code, for your CSS or HTML. So when you say, I want to show that color on the web, you copy this number and you put in HTML and that background is going to look that color red. Okay. So when you're trying to type in a color and make it happen in RGB, you would type 134 red and 9 this, 9 and that, and you're going to get blue. In CMYK, they're going to have to give you 28% of, those 4 films. You're going to have a little bit of red. You're going to have a very full magenta, a very full yellow, and a little bit of black, and boom, that's what you're going to get. Okay, so these are different languages for the same thing. All right, I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to clear that arrow. Can I do that? Clear all drawings. Yeah, there we go. That was bugging me. All right, so we got that text. If I were to save this as a JPEG, which is what I need for the internet, okay? That text is still going to be tightly jaggedy, right? There's some other formats that are okay for the internet, but 99% of the times, something that has a photograph or an image like this would be saved as a JPEG. If you're actually doing a vector file, an SVG would work. There's other things that work, but as a photograph, it will probably be saved as a JPEG if there's no need for transparency. This one has no need for transparency. Just trust me on that one for a minute. Well, don't trust me on that one. Let me explain to you an example of what would be a need for transparency. Give me I'm going to just demo this. I'm not going to show you. I just want to explain what a PNG is versus a JPEG. So I'm going to do something here to demonstrate that for a second. Okay, so now if this, and let me take the sample off. If this was the file that I'm trying to save, I don't know if you can see, but this stuff here is like a jaggedy little white and gray. It's not white, it's like transparency. If this is the file I'm trying to save, it's a banner, JPEG. It's a square background. JPEGs get to be compressed smaller and tighter, and it's going to be more efficient because you can compress it, and the compression is going to make it even smaller. We're going to talk about compression in a minute. If instead what you're trying to do, this is the logo for my company, and I'm just inventing that this is the logo for your company, you need that file, you need this little circle with this floating on top of a document or on top, on top of your web page or whatever. So this cannot be saved as a JPEG. If I save this as a JPEG, this will end up being a rectangular photo with white background, and that won't work. So you need to save it in a format that preserves transparency, and that would be PNG. Okay, so a PNG file is for the web to preserve transparency, but although it does really good quality, it will end up being, for the most times, bigger than the JPEG, because the compression it does is not lossy, so it's going to be higher quality. But so PNG is fine, but try to use it only for transparency-based images. Hold on, someone's up. What? Who's at the door? Oh, okay. No one. My son who has the key, he's just being lazy. Okay, so that said, let's go see what's happening with, before I can even save this, I can see that it says in 300 PPI. When I go save this, I'll show you the differences between saving for PNG and for JPEG. But for now, first thing we need to do is we need to go to image size, because we got to change the resolution of this image size. And again, in-depth conversation about all of this image size I do in the Photoshop class. Right now, I just want to give you, a once over. And what I see over here is that my resolution, indeed, if I hadn't checked it over here, there is at 300 DPI, which means that I have a file that's 3.5-ish megabytes. That is way, 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 way too big for the internet. But this is fine if I'm going to print it. If I'm going to print this, it'll be a 6x4x2 banner. And that's fine. If for some reason I need this to be some kind of a rectangular postcard or something, that's good. I don't need to change it. But if I'm going to print this, that 6x4x2 doesn't matter anymore. And all that matters is what size, how many pixels I have to see if it's the right size to fill the screen as a banner. And the resolution, in a way, won't matter either. And I'll show you in the correct place to do this. We wouldn't export from here for that. But let me show you that if I were to want to make this be 72 PPI, and I do that, oh, sorry, I needed to have this out. Let's turn off the resample. Turn off the resample first. That's, if I were to change this to 72 PPI, it's showing me then that this is going to print as 26 inches by 8 inches, which, fine, do that, say okay to that and print it, and it'll look horrible. It'll look disastrously out of focus, fuzzy, can't do that, right? So the only way, and notice that nothing is changing the file size. So what I would have to do, I would have to actually resample So I'm gonna put 300 in here again so that you can do the other example. I would have to hit resample, right? And then if I put 72 DPI over here, although it still says 6x4, look at how many fewer pixels I have. I have 461 pixels by 144 pixels. It went really small. And now it's only 194K. Remember, this would be equivalent to 3,300K. Look at how much less, from 3,000K to 100K. So I've made a big reduction. Now, I'm going to cancel here because this is not where we should handle this conversation. Because to do this, by doing it this way, I lost pixels. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted the file to be the same size. So this box should be used for print. Cancel out of here. Let's not change this. And let me show you if I want to print this, where I would go. So if this were to print, first of all I do is Command P for print. I didn't change it, right? So it's showing this is basically an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and this is showing you 6 by 2. And yeah, if you think about what the size of an 11 by 10, it's about 8. This is 6, so it's correct. This is the size that's going to print at. The text is going to look great. Life is good. It's going to show vector files. And if I had done anything else, vector, I have made shapes that are vector, they'd preserve their vector characteristics. Now, that's it for print. If I'm going to go to anything that has to do for the web, I'm going to have to export. And now I am not yet talking about PDF, which is what I said in InDesign. What I'm talking about here is exporting for the web. And so we would go to export as. Let's click on that. And again, I'm just doing the quick what should be done because I just noticed that I didn't yet show you something very important in InDesign, which is packaging the file. I forgot that. So I need to show you that. So here is export in InDesign. I would tell it what format I want to go to. And over here, it says, see, JPEG or PNG or GIF. And you'd only do that if you're saving something that's an animation or something that's only flat colored, like, you know, a logo that's a 2-color logo or something like that. You could save that way, but you don't want any kind of nuance. This has like this photo, it wouldn't work. So you only want to go with these two. If I choose JPEG, then I can tell it how much to compress it. JPEG compression is lossy, you lose quality with it. Before I do any compression, I want to show you where to look at the file size. Just by choosing JPEG, remember it was like 3,000 megabytes before? Just by choosing JPEG, it went from 3,000 megabytes to my glasses. These glasses aren't letting me see. What does that say? 114? Is that what it's saying over there? Or 1,000? So 114. Okay, 114. Now, if I want that to be even smaller, the better. I can bring the quality down to make it even more compressed. So let me bring this all the way down, like to low. Look at that, only 32 KB. It still looks great. In this image, doesn't matter. Sometimes compressing is going to be a real mess. I talk a lot about that in Photoshop, which ones you compress, which ones you don't. In this case, I can go really low. And from high that I had 114, just by compressing, I got it to be 32, right? Great, the smaller the better. Now this is a really tiny image. But what I haven't done yet is notice that I still have the same amount of pixels per side, 1900 by 600. When I did it the other way, when I put 72 PPI in the image size, remember I ended up with 400 pixels? That's gonna mean that on the web, I'm gonna have a tiny little banner. So that's why resolution doesn't matter at all when you're going to the web. Notice that not a single place here says 300 or 72 or anything in the export, because it's not about resolution. It's about final pixel size has to be the size that you want this to be on the web. So this is going to be a certain size, and it depends on what screen you're looking at it. I'm not going to get deeply into that right now. You keep that, and the way you make the file smaller is by compressing it. Now, if that was wrong and you actually needed only a, say, 500 pixel file, then you would change it over here too. So let's make this one be only 500, meaning it'll show up as a little photo on that web page. Then I'll hit tab to get this one to change again. So now that's showing up really tiny. This is 100%. So this is kind of how it's going to look on the web in my screen. And now it went down to just 8 KB. So this was like, I knew this might be a button or something. I don't know, like a thing, an area, a thumbnail. You might make something that tiny. And if so, if it looks that tiny and you don't care about the quality, well, why don't compress it all the way to low, make it so tiny that it's really, really, really small file. That said, of course, you wouldn't really make a file this tiny because you wouldn't be able to read the Friday catering, right? But I'm just showing you where this all would happen. All right. And importantly, in case it wasn't, it's going to convert it to sRGB. sRGB is the type of art, the color profile, the color space that you need for the internet. And then we'd say export. Good news, I messed it up. I made it tiny, quality. I made like a real mess of this thing. When I say export, it's not changing the original. Okay, that's why export is good. It's happening to the to this one that I'm exporting, but not to the whole thing. So I'm going to make sure on my name of my file also, I might want to mention, I'm going to put add, yeah, this is my web banner, but it's also the one that I went low quality, right? Or quality 10. So I'm going to go low quality. And I also might want to mention QT that I made it 500 pixels wide so that I know that this is the really tiny version of this. It's okay. And then I'll say save. And my original hasn't been affected. Now I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to move on from this because I only have a minute left and I still need to show you InDesign. I'm going to turn off this one. And if this was supposed to be a transparency and I said I could do a quick PNG, or I'm going to go here and show you again, I'll switch this instead to PNG. And it's going to ask me, do you want to preserve the transparency or not? See, if I say no, it gives me a white background. I don't know if you can tell. If I don't, that's what the equivalent to the JPEG. If I say yes, transparency, that is transparent. In fact, if I say no, I want to make this into a JPEG, boom, all of this turns into a white background. JPEG cannot preserve transparency. PNG can preserve transparency, but that's only a format for the internet. Over here, I'm working on one that's down to 500 PPI, and the other one that was at 500 pixels, I'm sorry, was only 6 KB. As a PNG with only 500 pixels, I got 34 KB. See how much bigger it is as a file? But it preserves transparency, so that's what you want, then that's good. Honestly, I should have cropped this, but I'm doing this quickly. You don't want all that empty space, but in the end, since it's transparent, it doesn't affect it too much, but it with placement, you might want it to actually not be this big background. Okay, so now I'm going to export, and now that's my my PNG. I'm not going to bother changing the whole thing. I'm going to say save. That's my PNG. All right, that's if you're going to screen. If you're going to print, remember you need high level, high quality imagery. Now I'm going to go to Bridge and show you the difference between these three that I just made. So the one that was a banner start JPEG, oh, here it was a PSD layered file. It was, 1900 pixels, 9.2 megabytes, 300 PPI, great for print. The one that the JPEG that I exported is showing me that it's only 500 PPI, 6 KB. But if I don't look at it here, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference, right? So it's important for you to notice, by the way, that I can't tell the difference by looking at it, right? Between this and that, looks the same. So the only way I can tell if these are different is if I change the name and I look at metadata. Versus this one, since it's the one that is the PNG, and it tells me here the file, whatever, and I look at it, it really is, but because I didn't crop it around it, it's showing me this big bunch of transparency, but that's that square pattern there, that's the transparency look. I can put this on the internet, and when I float it in, it'll be like floating over this, the transparency will disappear, and I will see everything around it perfectly fine. So that's what you would do if you're going to the internet, JPEG or PNG. If you're gonna print this from Photoshop, that's good. But if you're going to go into InDesign, you might as well take only the photo and then put the text in InDesign. It'll handle it better versus in InDesign importing a photo with text. That kind of doesn't make sense. But let's head back to InDesign because I have one last thing to show you that I completely forgot to do. So I'm going to do it with the final, and then we're done because I know you guys, the class has been is over right now. in 5 minutes or right now, I don't know. But I'm gonna skip all of this, so it'll still be a mess when I do it. But ignore. Final thing. I showed you how to do PDFs. Oh, in Photoshop, oh man, I ran out of time. In Photoshop, I want to show you how to do PDF. My technical issues with InDesign slowed me down. File. Not export, package. What's file package? We already exported it as PDF or whatever. Why would we use a file package? Well, especially an image like this, I already organized and put all the images in a folder called links, but a lot of times your files are all over the place. You don't even know where they are. They came from everywhere. You brought this one from here, you brought this one from there. And you're going to the kind of printer that does need to have all the files. They need the actual InDesign file and they need to have the fonts. Would you even know where to go get the fonts to send to the printer? Right? Depending on your computer, who knows where the fonts are hiding, what kind of files they need. So when you do package, which we're going to do right now, the package process, first of all, it's telling me where my mistakes are. That's fine. I know that I haven't updated the text, but it also includes, and I'm just going to say, okay, to the basic setup that is coming, I'm going to say package. Just say yes to that package. Oh, it must be saved. Save it now. Okay. I guess I made it changes. And it's gonna give me a, where do you want to save it? So I'm going to save it inside of the Starking newsletter folder. That's good. And I'm going to say save. So say yes, okay, to whatever. It'll automatically go into where the file comes from. So you don't need to look again. I'm going to say save. Go ahead and replace it. I'm going to say replace because it's the same one. Never mind. And create package folder. It wants you to create a folder in the same place. At this point, say yes to everything, but notice what it's doing. It's getting the fonts, it's copying the graphics, it's updating the graphic links, it's including IDML in case the other person has a different format. It's also including a PDF. Do you want to send them the smallest one or do you want to send them the highest quality one? You can choose here. Now you know what this means, right? You want the high quality PDF because you want to send them the print version. All right. One thing is, remember I told you about fonts and links from hidden and non-printing content? That's the stuff that's in the pasteboard. If you do that, then it'll include all those fonts. If you don't do that, it won't include those fonts. It'll only include the fonts that need to be sent. All right, that's package. Warning, restrictions apply to copying software. And what does this mean? You're sending fonts that you supposedly paid for to another person to print. And it's warning you, hey, you have the rights to this, but they don't, make sure that you know who you're giving it to, that whole shebang. It's about the rights to your fonts. Okay, let's say, okay. Basically, the printer is supposed to get rid of these fonts after he's done. Again, my warnings, there's overset text, there's overset. You should never do this, but let's say okay to them. And now it's thinking it through. And once it's done thinking it through, let me go to Bridge. So, and what happened? So let me show you the Starking folder. I had him put it in, I saved it inside of the Starking folder, right? So let's find my Starking folder. Here it is, Starking folder. Now in my Starking folder, I have another folder. Remember, it had the links and it had my before and start, and suddenly there's this new folder that appeared here out of the blue. And it's my Starking class final folder, it's called. Let's open that one up. And what's in here is 3 versions. I have my InDesign, my IDML for people who have a different version of InDesign than me. Maybe I saved it in InDesign 2023 and they're still working on InDesign 2020. They wouldn't be able to open this one, so open the IDML. And the print ready PDF, because I already told it to choose PDF. So it's included all 3 at once instead of having to do one in there. And it's made a folder for my links, which I already kind of had. But if I open it up, there's all my links. Okay, there we go, and back up. And then it also put a folder, and this is a goodie, with all my fonts, which I wouldn't have even known where to go. It included all my fonts. And this folder, this entire folder like that is what I'll send to the printer. They'll have the PDF if they want to print for the PDF. But if something went wrong and they need to call me, say from China, and say, hey, this is happening, or I have to call them, wait, don't print. We found a typo. Can you please check that word? They can open it up, correct that typo, and send it to print. So there's many other reasons, color corrections, other stuff, why if you're doing it, 10,000 coffee table books, you want to make sure that printer has access to making changes. Now, this is a huge file and it's copied. So you have double of this, double of that, double of everything, okay? So this also works, kind of the job. Once you're done with it, you get rid of everything else, and this is everything you need for this file, right? So the only one you keep is this final folder with the fonts, with everything. And why with the fonts? Because say, someone did this I'm going back to MTD only because you're here and you're giving that example. Say that I designed this, 5 years ago, and by then MTD has updated computers 3 times, and this is in some archive server. Then, Christina, can you use this thing and modify, update it to today? She goes from the archive, opens it up, and it comes with everything she needs, including the fonts, which are not anywhere near her computer anymore. Maybe MTD isn't using those fonts anymore. It's all neatly packaged. She doesn't have to go all over the place trying to find, where's that photo for this? Where's this photo for that? Does that make sense? So this final package is the complete thing. And it helps us too when we're working on stuff. If we package it, even if we're not done completely, but at least it grabbed the stuff that came from ever. You had a link in this server, a file in your hard drive, another on your external hard drive. It makes it all there. Now, you have everything doubled up. So if you have a lot of files, your computer just has 2 of them. So remember, get rid of the rest, or be aware that this is double the stuff. And when you have double the stuff, then which one you work next week? Are you going to work on this one or the one that's in there? Which one did you update? So it's really not a good idea to have double of the same thing, because someone might open this one to update. If you're on a server, Christina goes home, the person who comes and works after her opens the other one and goes, Christina didn't make the updates. She's updating the wrong one, So you don't want doubles or triples, especially when there's many hands in the same pudding, okay? That's it. That's the packaging part. If you bear with me an extra second, and you can go or not, and yay, nice to meet you, but I'm back in Photoshop. How would you do this if it were a PDF? What if you're printing from this? Or if you're creating a PDF, because this has to go be downloaded somewhere, or for some reason you need a PDF of this in Photoshop. All right, so in Photoshop, if you export, you don't get choices for PDF. All you can export is PNG, JPEG, and GIF. So you can't do export. So, which we did in InDesign. In Photoshop, you go to save. You save as. So in Photoshop, you actually do save as. And when you say, I want to change it to PDF, so if you're on a PC, you change it up there. On a Mac, you change it down here. Say, I want a Photoshop PDF. There's two good things about Photoshop PDF is that if you have layers, you can tell it to save layers. So you can still open it up again and edit those layers if you say that. Other than that, it'll flatten it. Okay, so let's go ahead and say, yes, I want this to be a PDF. I'm going to say save, and the settings are going to change. It warns you, yay, and the good old box comes up. What kind of PDF do you want? High quality print, smallest file size. Okay, basically what we had in InDesign. If I go up here, it's because I want it to come in with all my 300, if I go to the compression, it leaves it at really big, 300, 400. This is for print. If instead I change this to smallest file size, immediately see how it'll give me a low quality JPEG compression. Now you saw where I did that. It's gonna, by default, make everything really tiny. It's gonna downsample my photos. I can even say, well, no, I want it medium or high, but to get the smallest one, it's doing that. And when you save it, unless you changed its name, it wouldn't be able to distinguish it from the high quality one, right? So again, when you save, you need to tell, in this case, it's only compressing it at the maximum JPEG, meaning not maximum compression, it's the other way, maximum quality. So it is going to be a bigger file size than if you have minimum not minimum compression. In fact, it's most compression, but minimum quality. This is the one that people get confused because the word really is confusing. So remember, it's quality, maximum quality, less compression, bigger file size. You save as PDF, you say yes or no, then there you go. That's your how you save PDF in Photoshop. Basically the same as what we did in InDesign. But there's no option for crop marks because there's an option for bleed in Photoshop. That's what I want to show you. You don't put bleed in Photoshop. This is your image. If this goes into InDesign, this much would have had to be made bigger. Like you would have made this an extra 1/4 inch all around bigger, 1/8 of an inch bigger, so that in InDesign, this photo would appear with that much bleed. Okay. But if you go in Photoshop, you can't do bleed. Oh, thank you for the extra 10 minutes. I'm sorry, the InDesign issues, and some people are like, oh, yay, she gave us more. And some people are like, she keeps teaching. Either way, I just wanted it for the ones who had to leave, they have it in the recording, and I just wanted to complete this conversation. And yeah, I ran into those issues with the InDesign that slowed me down, but yeah, I'm gonna go and work on that one and replace fonts. So there's only 1 or 2 to replace next time we do the changes, because when I did this in 2022, there's only 1 or 2 fonts that didn't work, but now because of the fonts that it doesn't recognize, it's all the fonts it needs to replace. So it was harder to deal with. All right, hope you've learned a lot. I hope you apply it, you do some fun stuff. Please, I never told you, but put stuff in Padlet today. Thank you, Moni. Thank you, Monica. I hope, Linda, I never checked in with you. You were able to open the Star King stuff. Otherwise, I hope you were able to get something from watching. Isabel, Fabio, everyone, Susan, nice having you in class. If you ever want to take this again, just know each time I'll use different examples. So then stuff that right now is kind of fuzzy becomes better to understand, and you won't be like repeating the work. So next time I'll use something else, and then you'll get to learn something different. And next time you'll feel like, oh, I understand it now because she said it 3 times. Now it's 5th time, and oh, I get it. That kind of thing. But if you're ready to go and you're zooming up, go be a designer, do your stuff, do your marketing, send people over, and have a great life. Either way, it was fun teaching, and have a great summer if I don't see you, and have a great life if I don't see you ever again. And if not, I'll see you in the fall. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome, Fabio. Bye.
Thanks, Diana. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Linda. What happened? Did you get the files in the end or not? I'm curious.
You know, the file, I guess I didn't give it enough time, so the files just never got uploaded.
That's
So I'm
weird.
doing that now
Okay.
after the class, but
Okay, but they were there.
I just,
Okay, I'm sorry. I
They're
couldn't
on my
stop and try
desktop.
to. They were there, so there's nothing I
No,
could really do. So good. All
I-
right.
yeah. I kind of figured I'd sleuth it out. It's just, I needed to know if anybody else didn't have it. So,
Yeah, no,
anyway,
that's great.
There you go.
'Cause sometimes there's something I can do about it. Like maybe I forgot to put them somewhere, but once they're there, yeah, it's something. And I know that you have the wherewithal to fix it, and you did. So, all right. Bye, Linda. Thank
All right.
you.
I'll see you in Photoshop summer, right?
Great. Yeah, I'll see you in Photoshop Summer then.
All right. Sounds
Bye.
good.
So-
Bye.
I noticed that, so you had the Star King. We were at the Oaks. So
Oh, how cool.
when I saw the maypole, I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, that was Star King.
Yeah, we're sisters. We know what it is to be a Star King, or, the
The
Oaks or
workshop
whatever
families.
parent, the whole workshop families. It's a whole lifestyle. It's a whole thing, right?
It is.
Yeah,
isn't
the
it?
maypole. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the dirty kids,
Yeah. It's all good.
Okay.
Well, have a
All right.
wonderful summer, and
Thank
I'm
you.
planning to see you in the fall.
Yay. Wonderful. Look forward to seeing you in the fall. Bye.
Bye.